prayer that your presence, you start with us, continue and end with us successfully. We thank you, we honor you. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
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 Okay. Thank you. Dr. Sabre, please give us the welcome and purpose of the program.
Okay. Thank you very much, Doc, our moderator for this morning. Good morning, colleagues from the Faculty of Engineering.
Good morning.
I bring you greetings from the Directorate of Research, Innovation, Publication, and Technology Transfer to this sixth webinar series that we are organizing with your faculty and then the University Library. There are some important topics that we want to discuss and then present. And then within your faculty too, we have presentations from your dean and then Dr. Glenchima, as well as Dr. Sarah Duncan. Now, all of this is being done so that we'll strengthen our research within the university. Within ATU, the Faculty of Engineering, in terms of research, is the strongest, and that is a very good sign. But as you are strong, we urge other departments to also be stronger. Mechanical engineering, in terms of publications and research output, currently is the strongest. So civil and electrical, we expect more from you. But as a faculty, the amount of research that you are doing is in line with our statutes and all of that. But we seek to also enlighten ourselves more and help each other for ATU to grow. But the main purpose of this webinar is for us to just come together, have discussions on certain issues, and then ask ourselves questions and then try and make the Faculty of Engineering better in terms of research, stronger. Although you are the strongest, that doesn't mean that you have to give up. There should still be that sort of perseverance, then we can go ahead. So that is the main purpose of this program. Moderator, I'm done, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sabre, Director of DRIPTT. We are most grateful for the exposition. Our Dean, Professor Kutsenazi, is to give us an address before we take off as the host.
So good morning to all of us.
Good morning, Prof.
I think it is a privilege and honor done us this day that a platform is created for us to deliberate and discuss certain things pertaining to research. As the Director of Research rightly said, and rightly so, our mandate, first core mandate is teaching, and then the second is applied research. And we all know that in order to be effective in your teaching, the springboard or the support is research. The research we do is supposed to impact society, impact our students, and the world at large. Over the times, our ranking in terms of research outputs, I think, has been soaring gradually. But I believe with the strategic plan of the university, we are supposed to have that kind of strong regional influence. And as a way to go, we need to strengthen our capacity in that direction of conducting research that will put us into that limelight of soaring and getting to the top. And in order to do it, these are the very things that we would have to, platforms that we have to create in order to sharpen and build our capacity in that direction. I think it is as an institution, we are aiming to join the Times Higher Education ranking. And as a criteria for joining, we are supposed to have, as an institution, about thousands of research papers or articles published in order to qualify to join. And I think your efforts, my efforts, and our collaborative efforts will lead us there. So when we organize platform like this, it is to help us to reach that far. So on behalf of the Faculty of Engineering, no, the members, I want to welcome each and every one of you. And I ask that you tell a friend to join us. And I'm sure in a nick of time, and through the presentation that we do today, we will have a fruitful celebration and then edge and so forward. Thank you very much, and you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Prof. Now we have a presentation on project work guidelines for final year students, HND and BTech, and this will be delivered by Dr. Sabre, the director of DRIPTT. You can take over.
All right, thank you. So I hope you can see my screen. I've just shared it. All right.
Yes, please.
Okay. Once again, thank you very much for being part of this program. I'm going to make my presentation as fast as I can, but it's a very important presentation that we need to discuss. And it's about project work formatting guidelines for the final year students. That is our HND and BTech final year students, and some important tips and guidelines, publication process. The outline is quite a simple one. I'm just going to go through the formatting guidelines with you and issues about how to write a good paper and get it published. Certain things that we should know. We know some of these things already, but we can revise on them, have discussions on them, and understand it better. What makes a good paper? Why is it so hard to write good papers? How to improve, the ways to improve and get a good paper published. And then a template for good papers too, and then we conclude. Now, the project work supervision is an important aspect of us as academics. Currently, we don't have graduate students. It is the HND and then the BTech students that we have. From time to time, as time goes on, we'll get graduate students. But as a duty of academics and as lecturers, we are supposed to supervise. And what is happening in DRIPTT currently, which my colleagues here, some of you know, is that the project work gets to us for final approval of binding. And then the formatting is not of a particular standard that we are looking for. And because it's not of that standard, it's giving us problems because worldwide and everywhere, there should be a particular standard format that follows. We have to try as academics to correct this. And once there's enough collaboration between supervisors and students, I don't see this to be a problem because the template is in Microsoft Word. So the font should be in Times New Roman as we have it here. There's a font size that applies to the format. So the declaration, dedication, acknowledgements, abstracts, they are all there. DRIPTT is not looking at content and correcting content. We can't do that. That is the duty of the department and then the academic staff. What we are looking at is the template should follow a certain font. It should follow a certain font size. That is all, nothing more than that. So if it comes to us and declaration is 12, dedication is a font size of 12, acknowledgements is 12, and that is what we receive at times. And when we receive it like that, and other students have done the right thing, it makes it difficult for us to accept because then we are not getting the standards right. And as I said, it's Microsoft Word. So the chapter headings should be a font size of 16. Chapter subheadings, a font size of 14. The main headings in every chapter should be 12. The subheadings in every chapter should also be 12. And then the text in every chapter should also be 12. There are cases where the figure captions are 12. The standard template should be 10. Table captions and then the content should also be 10. This is a format which was given to HODs, and then HODs sent it out to the lecturers, which we know. But the follow-up between lecturers and students probably was not very strong, because the outputs that are coming shows that that is the case. And all of the above should also be bolded. See, so when we look at the issues about cases, see, we have cases that some of the words or content should be in uppercase. So if declaration is not in uppercase, the indication is not in uppercase. You have acknowledgements and abstracts, all of these, they are not in uppercase. It's not going in accordance with the guidelines, and that's the formatting guidelines that we have. Line spacing, sometimes you get 2.0 instead of 1.5. If the text in every chapter is not justified, it becomes a problem. The chapter headings and then the chapter subheadings should all be at the center. So if you have chapter 1, it should be at the center. The font size is 16. The subheading of chapter 1 is the introduction. That one should also be at the center. The font size is 4. That is all that DRIPTT checks. We don't look at whether the content in what the student has done is right. We don't even have the expertise for that. So it's a different ballgame, and we should be able to have to capitalize each word for every chapter subheading. There are main headings in every chapter and all of that. So if you have 2 or 3 letter words, it should always be in lowercase for table captions and then headings. If you have more than 3 words, that is from 4 words going, or 4 letters going, then that one, it should all be in, especially if it is a heading. It should have it should have a title case, and then it should be in a form of a sentence. So if there are 2 or 3 letter words, normally we will look at the caption and see that those words should be lowercase. Now, if the words are from 4, the number of letters are from 4 going in a word, then it means that we expect that word to begin with a capital letter. So we check all of that. That is all that we check, in addition to the issues regarding the font sizes and all of that. So let's be mindful of this and direct our students to do it. We should be able to let the students format Microsoft Word. The student should be able to finish ATU, and they should be able to format his or her own work in Microsoft Word. Because Microsoft Word is not difficult to use so much if you have been taught and then you have even practiced. There shouldn't be a case where the student cannot format his own report and finish HND or BTech. It's not good for the institution. So that is why if a format template has been given to them, even if they don't know, they have to try their best to learn, get to know how to do this. The enter citations and references, we use APA format as a standard in ATU. So the citations should be the format of APA, the references should be the same. And then all inter citations and corresponding references, normally they should be complete. But you find a case where the format of the references are wrong. All of us know that if it's APA, the author should be there, the year of publication should be there, the title of that particular article, whether it's a conference paper or whatever, should also be there. And then the source of where that article is coming from should be there and italicized. The page numbers and then the volume and issues, there's a particular format for APA. Now, the interesting thing is the format template which has been given to the students and then to the departments, all of these are in to guide the students that this is how APA should look like. And this is how table captions should look like. This is how figure captions should look like in terms of size, in terms of font and all of that. But there are cases where it gets to our office and the printout is not in line. It makes the binding difficult in many cases. So let's forge ahead to do that. Now I'm going to quickly stop sharing this and go through the template with you so that what I've explained in the presentation, it could be more understandable in that regard. This is the template. So the font sizes here have been defined. There's a font here of 22. There's another one of 14. It's all coming down. So all the student needs to do is to change this one to his or her title or their title. Put the names and index numbers here, depending on whether they are 4 or 3 or however it's. Now, in this case, the Faculty of Engineering will have to replace these dots. and then the Department of Mechanical or Civil or Electrical will replace what we have. Everything here remains the same. And this is September 2021. So if it is this year, this one will change to 2022. So that is what is done on this cover page. But even here, as it is, when it gets to us, the font sizes have changed. And this template has already gone out. Doesn't require any change. Declaration by students, if it's one or students. It means if there are many, these brackets are moved away. If it's only one person, you delete all of this. The HND program title is here, replaced with engineering programs. And then we have first, second, their names and all of that are here. Then if the students are in a particular department, this will change. See, so in a case where you have the student being one is I. If there are more than one here, you make it we for the declaration. And dedication to will come, you have acknowledgements, and the font sizes are all here. So all here is 12. The line spacing over here, when I click here, you see that it's 1.5. Then you have this one as a font size of 14. It is not expected to change because any slight change that is shown here will let the work be rejected. We won't accept it. That you have the abstract, which is going to change in accordance with what the student is supposed to do in terms of his abstract. All of this is a guide. The students can even use the format data here easily to get this format once they delete this and type below. Not a problem. We have the table of contents, which is automated based on the changes that the students will make also. We just have to update this and then that one to work. So it comes down, and then list of figures on a different page. Font size is 14. We have list of tables also on a different page. Then the chapter starts. So this is where here is 16, chapter 1. This font is 14, introduction. That is the subheading of the chapter. And then the main headings within the text. If it's in uppercase, or if it's a main heading, it's in uppercase, and the font size is 12. Now, if it's a subheading, this is also a main heading, but if it's a subheading, it looks like this. So it is these two which are capitalized. The students have this, and that is what they are supposed to do. So this is a subheading within chapter 1. This is a main heading within chapter 1. And you see that this is all in uppercase, and these ones, you have the words have been capitalized. So some students will bring this one, and all here are capitalized. Difficult to accept because it has been given to them this way. You see, and then we have the table captions too. This one, the font size is 10. Inside here too, the font size is 10. It gets to us, and here is 12, and here is also 12. It won't be accepted. So they just go by it through the supervision of our academic staff, and then that should be done. We are supposed to look at their format before they submit. It's our duty as supervisors to do that. We have to remember that even if it's an HND project or a BTech project, it may not go online. We don't have a repository to post them there. But your name is on it as a supervisor. Once your name is going on it as a supervisor, it is your responsibility to make sure that the work that is being submitted by the student conforms to what the standards of ATU should be. Once you have accepted to supervise the students, that is what we have to do. So that you accept to supervise them. And then when it gets to the format, you let them do whatever they have to. Because if their work is not being accepted, it comes back to you as a supervisor to make sure that at the end of the day, it will be accepted. Why don't we all do it once? It won't be any case. We have the figure captions too. The figure captions are below the figure. Some students put it above. If it's above, it's not right. The font size is 10. When you look critically, this is a 2-letter word, so it's lowercase. Words which are from, let's say, 4 letters going. Most ones capitalize each of them, like what we have. It goes down like that. So it's the same for the rest. Just that when you are in chapter 2, it's 2.0, 2.1, etc. When you are in chapter 2, the table becomes 2.1. The first table in chapter 2 becomes 2.1. Second table in chapter 2 becomes 2.2. And then we have this. The first figure in chapter 2 becomes 1. So they just, you see, these things are there. The students just have to edit this. They can edit all that is here to suit their project work. And it's going down like that, just to guide them. And the fonts and font sizes have all been defined. When you go down to the references, all of these are in APA to guide. So this one, for example, is how a conference citation reference should be within it. This one, because you have the proceedings of a particular conference. If they are not even able to bring the location, it doesn't matter, because at this level it will be difficult for them. But at least which conference it was, and then the page number of that particular proceeding, now we can find. It will help. See, so all of these are in the format which has been given to them. So there's no excuse that I don't know how to do referencing. When you have it formatted like this for you, many of them for you to look through, and then you can distinguish what is a journal paper, this International Journal of Education and Development using ICT. You have other ones here, a guide for them to be able to do it. So in using this one plus other tools like Mendeley and even Google Scholar to copy references and all that, shouldn't be difficult for them. So that is the issue with the project work. Let's look at it and take it more seriously and guide the students properly so that they can be able to finish and then it doesn't become a burden. You see, when students of a particular academic year are not completing their project work and it's coming back to the supervisor for problems to solve and all of that, it creates a whole lot of issues here and there. And those are issues that we don't really want. So let's guide them and let them finish the project work, because now we are another academic year. We are going to get different students from the previous academic year. If you have past students who haven't completed their project work, you can't add those students to your current students. That's too much pressure. We all know that we are teaching, we are doing so many things. So it brings about a whole lot of things. So let's look at it well. And I know the dean will also put in some words about this project work issue. Now, let me quickly go back to my presentation and then run through the aspect about research, how to get a good paper published. Now, the importance of publishing is something that we cannot do without. The dean has mentioned issues about research already, and publishing papers is something which is critical for our career and progression in terms of being an academic staff. Normally, the content and collaborative research in terms of title is very, very important. So if you are in electrical, mechanical, or civil, by all means, you have a particular research area that you work on. And it is expected that that area defines you as a researcher. The areas are broad. You agree with me that when you go into mechanical, we have different areas, but you have to define yourself well, collaborate in that particular area, so that when we see your articles, it defines you as a researcher. That is how it's supposed to be. The issue about the fact that maybe you want your name to go on different papers or different articles when that is not your research area, it will get to a point one day that you be asked, where do you actually belong in terms of research? And you may not have an answer. We always have to define our research interests well. It's important for writing skills, and it's important to that particular field so that you can zoom in well. Now, publishing is hard. It is not something which is easy. It is hard because these top journals, they have low acceptance rates. They don't accept papers anyhow. It's difficult for them to accept because they have got so many good papers. So it takes a lot of convincing for them to actually see that your paper is good. Because it's top, they have received so many papers over the years. They are comfortable with a lot of papers. So if you don't convince them, it's a different ballgame. It becomes difficult. That is why you compete with good papers when it comes to top journals. You have a lot of good papers and you are competing with others who are also writing. So publishing well and publishing good in top journals is not easy at all. And then the reviewers too, they are potential competitors. Every reviewer looks at being a competitor to you. So for you to convince a reviewer that your work is good, because the reviewer will have that experience of writing in the area that you are also writing in. So all the time, you have to look at all of these three issues and factor them in. The contribution should be good. The writing and logical flow of the paper should be well defined so that when somebody reads it, he can see clearly how you are contributing to that particular field and what is actually innovative in what you are doing in terms of the papers that you are writing. Now, the good paper, or what makes a good paper, should have good content. And there should be writing skills. So the content should be good in terms of innovation. The content should be good in terms of the contributions that you are bringing. Your writing skills should be good in terms of how you write your abstract, how you write your introduction, your related work and literature review, how you go about it, your methodology, which process you go through in order to come up with it, and issues regarding how you even perform experiments, if you are doing experiments, how you even reveal your results, and all of that. What sort of tools you are using for your experimentation and all of that. Those issues are very, very important. They are part of the content. Now, it's our job to get good content and results as academic staff and researchers. That is what we seek to do all the time. The writing skills involves our structure, it involves the flow, it involves the argument. All of these are important. You have to get a good structure. The flow should be there. That when somebody reads this introduction, he has the desire, he has the attention, he wants to read more about it. You have to factor all of these issues in. The logic should be there, it should be consistent, it should be succinct as well in terms of what you are writing, and then the English, which in our side of the world, we don't really have a lot of problems with English, but the English should be good. Now, the standards must also be high. Now, what makes a good paper? We have to put in our best efforts as well in that, and then compared to others, is your paper good or is it best? Comparatively, how good is it? Can you compare what you have written to what is already there? Sometimes you can even go into a particular journal, download some of the papers that they have, the top journals. You download what they have, compare to what you have written, and you can see whether what you have done is comparative enough. If you see that it is not meeting what is already published in that particular journal, then it means that it won't be a good paper enough for that journal. That is it. So let's take note of that. And the reviewer should not be taken for granted at all. Reviewing is an important aspect of getting a good paper published, and you have to be able to convince the reviewer with how you respond, how you look at comments, how you make your verifications, and then get back to that particular reviewer. All of those things are important. But the subject matter should also be right all the time. So if it is civil engineering, is the subject matter related to civil? Is the subject matter related to electrical? Is it related to that particular field that you are working on? The problem should be well defined. A very defined problem that is very specific and not a general problem. It should be simple and compelling, not something which looks so complicated. The contribution should be clear. All of these are signs of a good paper. When you have results, are they reliable? Can somebody look on your results and reproduce through another experimentation method or not? Or your results are not reliable and reproducible? Can you repeat that particular procedure in a different way and add some innovation to it or not? Can somebody do that? There should be a good structure and logic flow too as well within it. And then there should be frequent referrals. This means that the paper is good when you get it published and then people are citing it, people are reading it, people are having access to it, people are interested. You even get calls about certain aspects of your paper. And it means that people are referring to it frequently in terms of citations and in terms of contacts. And that is also another sign. Now, the more the better in terms of many new ideas. If you have a revolution, there's a breakthrough or a paradigm shift, that is also good. And then if you have, engineering, there's a lot of mathematics, no two ways about that. So if in an engineering paper, it's very, very mathematical, there are formulas, there are theories, you have about 12 or let's say 10 different equations pointing out the content in the paper, which is making reference to different things and all of that. You have maybe some evaluation metrics that you are applying or simulation metrics, and then you have equations referring to those. It makes it a good paper. It makes it very scientific because that is what makes it engineering sort of, or even science in a way. And many times that is what the reviewers look out for. Now, the first ever means that it is so innovative. Maybe it is the best as well. Maybe it's unprecedented, the paper that you are writing. And it's something which is looking quite different from what is existing. It's a new idea that has come up, which those who read, they are interested in it. Now, we have a situation where you use your own references. That is also important. You use your own references. You refer to previous work, which is very, very close to what you are doing. And you show exactly what is different between what you are doing and the previous work. which has been done. That signals innovation, and that signals contributions to as well. So it is tedious to read your own paper. Many of you will agree with me that when you even write your paper, reading it yourself is quite tedious. You may not find your own mistakes. The mistakes are there. You may not find, sometimes when you subject your paper to Grammarly, or you subject your paper to maybe even Turnitin or something else, certain things come out that you didn't even imagine, that you didn't see. You see, but that is human nature. Because you have written it, you assume that there are no mistakes. But you have to be able to let others read. So you ask others to read. You read it word by word yourself. You have co-authors. Let them also read. Let them have access, and then they should also read. And you have to revise carefully, maybe 3 times, total of 5 times, more than 3 times. And then the responses to the reviewer should also be absolutely clear. That is how to improve revisions. If your responses to a particular reviewer is not clear enough, it brings a whole lot of problems. The reviewer doesn't understand. Remember, the reviewer, you don't get him through a phone call. You don't get him through an email. The only person you can speak to is the editor-in-chief, or the person you can contact is the editor-in-chief or the associate editor. As for the reviewer himself, who is reading your paper, there is no contact because of conflict of interest and so many. So if your response to a particular article's review is not clear, the person doesn't understand. So you have to be able to prepare a review report with your responses, and then you clearly state that reviewer 1, this is what he stated, this is his question, and this is our response as authors to that particular reviewer. So the paper could benefit from a more thorough research on the practical implications of virtual laboratories versus physical ones. It is not clear if the authors have found evidence of the appropriateness of using a blended of physical and virtual labs, or one of them. This is a query that the reviewer is raising. Every single word that he has mentioned here in the negative has to be responded positively. Otherwise, it doesn't become clear. So most of the time, we have to show gratitude either at the beginning or at the end of our review response. We show that gratitude either at the beginning or the end of the review response. And then you look at how you are going to respond to that particular person word for word. So when you look at this, I won't read all, but when you look at it carefully, you see that you have, thank you very much for your kind comments and suggestions. In relation to your comments, we have revised our manuscript and added experimental evaluation of the proposed solution on pages 15 to 17 into bracket blue fonts in the revised manuscript. Please check and verify. As shown on pages 15 to 17, bracket tables 4 to 6 in the revised manuscript, the experimental procedure clearly illustrates statistical assessment and experimental evaluation results. You show the reviewer exactly where he can find the updates, the revision in the paper, the pages, and then you can clearly distinguish it by using blue fonts and then mentioning page numbers. He goes straight to that particular page and it's there. Remember, it's not only for the reviewer. The associate editor will also have a copy of these responses. Once they are done, it will go to the editor for a final decision. So once you clear everything like this, it becomes clear. Let us respond this way. And once you respond, the paper is likely to get accepted if you have done it. Now, this is reviewer 2. You may get 2 or 3 reviewers per paper. Sometimes there are even 5 or 4. And this particular reviewer is saying that there are some issues with the APA citing style 2. So it means you solve that issue in the update, and then you show gratitude by thanking the reviewer for that response, and then you correct everything. And if there's a page number, then you direct. But in some cases, there are no page numbers because you just double check and then show. But if the reviewer specified a particular citation or maybe a particular reference, you have to show that the reviewer within your response that particular page. The second comment that this reviewer made is there are some issues with the format of the paper in accordance with the journal's templates. So it means that this paper was submitted without conforming to the journal's templates. Just like the template of the students that I was discussing, every journal has a template. So some journals will allow you to submit the paper from the beginning in any template of your choice. Some are also very strict on the template that even if the paper is under review, it should be submitted in their template. So it means this comment when you are submitting a revision, the template to be changed completely from what was submitted before. So thank you very much for your kind comments. We have reformatted the manuscript according to the journal's template, and the reviewer will check and verify whether that has been done. These are how to improve and make sure that you get a good paper published. If the responses are not so good and then the reviewer doesn't understand, you can't contact the reviewer. The only way you can do it well is to make sure that the paper or the response is exactly, you don't take some of them out. There are cases where a comment comes and maybe there's a particular comment, you want to try and avoid it. That is the comment maybe the reviewer wants answers to. So most of the time, we have to look at each comment which is negative with the reviewer's comment and then answer it clearly or as clearly as we can. It's very important that we do that. Now, the template of every good paper has an abstract, has an introduction. There's a review of previous work. There's either a proposed method or a solution. If there are experimentations, there will be a particular section for that. There are findings and results, that one will have a section. There will be discussion and conclusion, and then there will be references. Currently, most of the time, these top journals now have what we call supplementary materials that most of you know. And these supplementary materials are good for the paper, but they cannot go into the content. So whereby you have an audio, you have some a video, you have some questionnaires that you used, or you have anything that feel that it is important for this particular paper, but they can't go into the content. You can add it as part of your supplementary materials. Once somebody goes online, the person can click on that aspect, the supplementary material section of the paper, and get those ones. So if there's a video, and nowadays what people are even doing is they can do a video about their paper, and the video will help reviewers understand the paper better, so that they can present the paper in a video form to the reviewer. So when he's reviewing, he can also look at the video as a supplementary file. And also present audio and all of that. They are all part of supplementary. But abstract normally is written in the past sentence by standard, because it is assumed that the work has already been studied, you've done it, and you are now writing for people to read. So the study was conducted, was and where those sort of words go into the abstract. Maybe results showed that, or results showed that, then it becomes clear in terms of the tense of the abstract. And the summary of the work and contributions is the purpose of the abstract. What is the background and the problem should be your abstract. We all know that. What is your solution, results, and implications? They should all be there. The applied methods and then experiments, they should also all be in your abstract. The introduction is rather written in the present tense, because it usually presents a tense due to the fact that we are now presenting facts about the background information. And because you are introducing them or readers to this particular work or research work that you have done, it's more or less like you are showing that you believe the research is correct. And even if something is of the aged or something is done in the past, some of them can be put in the present tense too as well. So we have an example here. Clydemia and Ostium are both plants with ant stomata, and it continues like that. And that is basically how an abstract should be. We have elements of an abstract too, which we all know that an abstract should always discuss the importance of that particular research topic, give a background why that research is important. If there are a few literature, you cite them in there, and then the context of the study, where the study is also being conducted, and those kind of things, they go in. So that is how the abstract should be. And normally the outline of the research paper is also in the abstract. The background, the introduction, the background is also there. But some articles have problem statement as one section, and some articles have the problem being stated within the introduction. It happens. Sometimes you open an article, you don't see problem statement written boldly, but you read the introduction and then you see that they define the problem within. So maybe some previous work A and B were studied. A and B had certain weaknesses. Now you have to be careful about these weaknesses that you observe, because whatever weakness that you've seen, you have to have research evidence that is actually weak. So A and B have certain weaknesses. Then you are going to propose D through maybe a particular protocol, particular simulator or something, and then a conceptual framework. And then what are the strengths of D? Maybe there will be experimentation in which D will be compared to A and B, and D will be better. You see, so a glimpse of this can be in your abstract, even as part of your introduction, as part of your contributions. And then the outline of the paper 2 is clear. What is in section 1? What is in section 2? How are you organizing your paper? So from section 1, section 2, section 3, what goes in there? Somebody reads your introduction and you already get a structure and a flow of how your sections are within the paper. So the differences have to be drawn. Previous work, they have to be split. You have to compare your work in different and relevant categories. You don't have to miss any form of previous work, which is important. We all know that research, which is innovative, means that you have read around well, because you can be doing something which is already done, and that doesn't make it innovative enough, especially when it gets to the area of PhD, whereby you don't go into the gaps of that particular research area well. You define a problem which has been solved already, then it is not worth that level of research in terms of a PhD. So these are things that we should note, and all of these goes well in the introduction. The methodology is also in the past tense because you have done or you have used particular methods in your research work, and it's something that you have done in the past. So you have to state it as if you are working in a passive way and it's in the past. So the example that we have down there, for example, the geographical area selected for this study, 10 random focal points were selected. So it's not are selected or will be selected, because the selection has been done. It's a field work that you've done through a particular method. So you have already done it. Because it's already done, it goes that way. And when it gets to the experimentation, where you are going to explain certain things about an experiment, if you've done it, or results, or a simulation that you've done, anything that is going to give you results of your study through experimentation or through another simulation or whatever, should also be in the past tense, because it has been done. So you are now reporting what you have done and the results that you got from that. So the example here is we observed, which is in the past tense, that there are no statistical differences in blah, 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 that it goes on like that. So that is also another way of doing it. And we should look at the tense. Whatever you've done in the past, let it be in the past tense. And then, because you are reporting and you have published the paper, somebody's going to read about what you have done. Normally, the past tenses are more, because it's something that you have done that you are now reporting for people to read. That is it. So the experimentation too is normally for verification, very, very important aspect of the paper. In engineering, maybe you call it simulation. Those in electrical, that is how you call it. Civil and mechanical, I'm not really sure, but there will be a term for it. So verification is done there. Experimental design analysis, it should be detailed enough, concise and clear, and then it can others replicate your work? Meaning, when they look at your experimentation, can they get something from it to be able to also work at it? Now, is there a comparison? How strong is it scientifically? And then you have to make sense of your results. If there are some metrics that you are using to compare what you have done to other previous work, there should be metrics that is going to be used for that. So in every field, we have this particular metrics that you can use for experimental comparison and all of that. Then you draw conclusions about your results through experimentation and analysis, and then it's done. Now, there are sentences within discussion that can be present or past. What we have to note is, if something has been done, we do it in the past. If you are reporting something which is not really in the past, you can use the present tense to do that. So experimental results in this paper shows that it means that you are saying something which was done in the past, so you are verifying from that. We may have cases that some of these two are in present tense, but what we have to do is to make sure that we report rightly in terms of the sentences, and then in terms of the tenses, and then there won't be any problem at all. So the Citations and references. I don't have to speak so much about this because you very well know that we have to always be on guard in terms of plagiarism. And then whoever we use or whichever work that we use, we have to cite the person. For other people's work, you will use it because you have to support your claims. And then you have to know what others have done. And the more you have references, the more it means that you are reading wide and you know what you are doing. So you have to use the right referencing style in accordance to the journal. Some journals use numeric reference. All journals in Hindawi, they use numeric reference. Many of them, that is their template. If you go to IGI Global or maybe Plus One or another, IGI Global, they use APE. You see, so you cannot select your reference that doesn't go in accordance to the journal's template or style. It won't work. So you look at the template and then you have to use what, otherwise they'll query it and bring it back. So you have to use what they are using. And I've already mentioned about the supplementary files too as well. So you have anything multimedia, animations, movies and audios and etc. that you feel is good for the paper, but you cannot put a video directly into the paper. You can give a link of the video. You can give a link of the audio, and then that link can be in the paper as part of the supplementary files. Maybe you collected some data, a data set, which you want to make reference to that particular data set, but you can't put the whole Excel file as a data set into the paper, but you can add it as part of the supplementary files. For reviewers to see, when they see this, they become more convinced. Because if you are talking about the data set, for example, or you are talking about maybe a particular experimentation that you've done, and then they were not there to see the data and the experimentation, but you can give them further proof as to you doing that. It helps get the paper accepted and then published finally. So these are things that we should look at. And every journal has a policy when it comes to supplementary information. So we should be able to read some of these policies and see how their submission looks like and the procedure. They all have different ways, how the files should be, whether you should compress them, whether they should be one-one. They have all of these issues that we have to follow. And basically, we have to go in accordance to what the policy is stating within that particular journal. See, so I've even encountered some of you in this faculty with these issues, and you were able to submit the supplementary files without any problem. In the beginning, sometimes it's difficult, but if you go in accordance to their policy and then send emails and find out certain things, it can be done. So finally, we are looking at 3 main steps in publishing a paper. So before submission, you have to choose a journal or a conference. The journal is for formal evaluation and archival. The conferences are normally for quick presentation and also for archival. So the conferences you present, the journal, your paper will be evaluated and archived as part of a particular volume in that particular journal. Now, after you submit, there's communication with reviewers and editors. The reviewers' comments and revisions, as we've seen, have to be done. You have to also communicate with editors as well. And if your paper is rejected, you have to be able to handle rejections. Because a rejection, as bad as it sounds, can sometimes be good because you use the comments to make your paper better and submit it for another journal if that particular journal doesn't want it at all. So after acceptance and publications, you have to expand your network, paper referrals in terms of citations, following up on your work, seeing who. You can even download the paper that is citing your work and see how they cited you and verify whether they are even citing you correctly or not. That is the follow-up. You communicate with readers too as well. On research gigs and in other places, sometimes somebody reads your paper, he wants information. You don't neglect the person, you communicate, it's important. So you have to choose the right outlet, whether it is a journal or whether it is a conference. Now with the journal, we have regular papers, we have special issues too as well. If it's a special issue, it means that some researchers have come together and they are making a case for papers to be written. So they have their document, which is part of the journal that you can download and then read. It may be advances in education as a result of COVID-19. That is a special issue in a particular paper. So you read the scope, verify whether you have a paper related to what they are saying. Even if you don't have, maybe you can start one. And the special issues, they are normally faster because they have a particular date that they are supposed to publish. So the moment they even accept your paper, they publish it straight away. But the regular papers goes in volumes. You can have a regular paper which can take a year or 1.5 years before finally it will be published for you to see. There are those issues. So the conference papers, we have posters, we have oral presentations, plenary presentations, and keynote as well. Everything about the conference is presentation and interaction. So like the conference we are going to have in ATU very soon about the technical universities, it's all going to be our presentations and interactions. There'll be posters, there'll be orals, we have plenary and then keynotes. Now the factors to consider when choosing the right publication outlet is to look at the subject matter, the prestige and impact, and the exposure and visibility. Many top researchers go to very good journals to cite. But if you're able to get your paper into one of these journals, you will easily get the visibility and get the citations based on that. There are 1 or 2 cases whereby your paper may be in the top journal, but the citations are not coming. We have those cases. But in order to be visible and exposed in terms of your research interest and the papers that you are writing, it is always advisable to try your best to target these papers. It is always best to do that so that your visibility can always be improved in that way. The timeliness, responsiveness is also important. There's a deadline to submit. Make sure that you submit to the journal by that deadline. And then you check the editorial board. You go to a journal, there's an editorial board. Copy the names, 2 or 3 names of the editorial board. Check them. Verify whether they are actually in institutions that are stated in the website. And if they are there, it means that they are credible. Then you look at the reputation of the journal too and see whether it's good. So let's understand who an editor-in-chief is. And the editor-in-chief is the CEO or the boss, the big boss of the journal. They appoint associate editors. They manage the budget operations of the journal. And if there is a dispute between the associate editor, authors, and reviewers, they have to solve it. So they are the top of top. They make the final decision. So an editor-in-chief can reject a paper if he feels that the associate editor and the reviewers, what they are stating about that particular paper is not good. He has the final decision. But it's rare. Normally, the reviewers by standard will do a good work. If it's a top journal, the associate editor will go in accordance to policy. So the editor-in-chief will not have come to a point where he has to reject based on work which wasn't done right. So the associate editor who is under the editor-in-chief, there are many of them, they assign reviewers. They assign reviewers and then they have to bridge, or they are a bridge between the authors and the reviewers. So they assign reviewers, they communicate with authors and they communicate with the reviewers. When the reviewers are done, the report goes to the associate editors and then they submit the report to we as authors. The EIC hasn't come in here at all. It is when the review is done that the report will move from the associate editor to the editor-in-chief finally, or the paper gets published. So they also make a recommendation on paper rejection or acceptance based on the report coming from reviewers. They do that. And then finally, the issue about handling logistics and manuscripting, proofreading. And one thing that I'll state here, any journal that doesn't allow you to proofread your work before final publication is not a good journal. Every good journal will allow you to proofread your work finally, make final corrections. It's called proofreading. So they will send you the final aspect of the paper, or final content of the paper, and then they will allow you to proofread, make corrections to the paper. Every good journal does that. Every top journal does that. It's called proofreading. A case where you submit, review is done, then there's no proofreading. You read it yourself. There's no proofreading activity within the journal's submission system. But you submit everything yourself. There's no proofreading activity. That journal is not a good one. See, so kindly take note of that. After you submit, the reviewers' comments we've gone through, the revisions we've gone through, communication with editors, that one also has to be done as well. And then we have how you build a network and all of that. So the reviewers' comments, I've already gone through with you. You have to submit your paper to the EIC. Once you submit your paper to a journal, it goes to the editor-in-chief. The editor-in-chief will assign an associate editor. Associate editor will identify 3 to 5 anonymous reviewers. And then after that, the associate editor will make a decision based on the review report from the reviewers. And then the associate editor makes a final decision to the EIC regarding the status of the paper. But the last decision, which is final, lies in the EIC. So once that is done and is accepted finally, then there will be a correspondence between the author and then the publication editor in terms of proofreading issues about manuscripting and all that. So if you don't go through this, when you want to publish, it means that you are not really publishing and getting your paper into, especially the last aspect. Because the predatory journals, they all have EICs and all of this. And associate editors may not be there. They will have an EIC and straight away maybe reviewers. But if there's nothing like the corresponding author working with the publication editor, especially in terms of proofreading, then it's not a good journal. We have to understand that. And the reviewers have an in-depth knowledge about all this. They look at what you have done, give a feedback, and they would have been people who have several papers on the same subject. They understand it. So personally, and I know most of you, if you get a paper that you have reviewed, you have to review. You look at the subject area. If it is not your area, you can't review it because you don't understand what the authors have written. You may even reject it while it's supposed to be accepted because you don't understand. That is why there should be no direct conflict of interest with authors. We are working in ATU. There's no way any of us can review a paper amongst us as colleagues, even in different departments. It's not going to work because of that situation. We have that situation as well. So we have people with different mix of background and seniority. We have all of those sort of issues and all of that. So now after you submit, there's going to be understanding that most of the papers are 70 or greater than 70% are rejected by top reputable journals. The way that you can expect that. So don't expect that by all means your paper will be accepted. There are so many situations where your paper can be rejected. And if it's a good journal, then you should expect that. Now you don't have to feel shame if your paper is rejected, especially if it's coming from a top journal. Top journals, getting the paper there is difficult. So if they reject, you take it in good faith, and then you make sure that you can try your best, your very best, to shape up the paper, make it better, and then you can then submit it to a different journal if that particular journal doesn't want it. That journal doesn't want it. So we have all of those sort of cases. All right, so after review and acceptance, we have you taking care of logistics, paying attention to follow-up, and then you communicate with readers, you expand your network, and all that. So in conclusion, a good research paper and writing a good research paper is essential. And solid content is very important to get a paper accepted in a top journal. Effective communication skills with the EIC, the associate editor, and reviewers is necessary. We've seen how to communicate with reviewers. Everything is about politeness, not being rude, because you want your paper published in their journal. So respect should be there, being polite, showing gratitude, even if it's negative and all of that. Even if your paper is rejected, you take it in good faith. And quality is very, very important when it comes to publications, not quantity. Somebody can have 1 or 2 papers in these 2 top journals, and then you can have 20 in predatory journals. That person has quality publications and is likely to be more recognized in terms of research more than you, because where the papers are is of a good area. That is something that we should know. So that is why.
Hello, Doc.
Yeah.
Please let's conclude. The time has.
Yeah, I'm already done. I'm almost finished. Okay. You build and expand your network and all of that. So to just box it on, these are just some reputable publishers that we have been advertising and we have been presenting on, that we should always look in when we want to publish. And once you want to publish, check the publisher. Verify whether the publisher is coming from any of these. Elsevier, Emerald, in Naui, IEEE, Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, which is strongly for your faculty, the Cambridge University Press and all that. Important. So Nova Science and all of that. So we have Taylor and Francis and many of them, which we prepared a document that we share this to the university very soon, so that you know that if you are publishing here, it is good for ATU and it's good for you as a researcher to an academic staff as well. All right, so these are some indexes too, which are also very important. Let's look at the Web of Science, Science Citation Index, Focus. You have your paper there, then there's no problem whatsoever. Okay, so moderator, thank you, I'm done. If there are any questions, okay, I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay, thank you. In the light of the next, comparing your presentation and then what Prof will be presenting soon, I'll wait when Prof finishes presenting, then the questions can come, and okay, then we handle it in that okay fashion. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. Prof. Dean. So our next presentation is on the art of mastering the selection of a quality and appropriate journal. As doctors has started, you see that there are a lot of rules and games and trickery that one has to master to be able to, get his or her work out there. So Prof will further elucidate the art of mastering the selection of quality and appropriate journals for our work and for publication. So I give the floor to Prof.
Okay. Yes. All right. Can I share my screen now?
Yes, please, you can.
Just a minute.
Okay, Prof.
Okay, once again, good morning to all of you.
Good morning, Prof.
Hey. All right, so it looks as if Director, you served my presentation a bit, but I would just be brief on mine, and then we go straight to the point.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to look at mastering selection of quality and appropriate journals for your research publications. Let's have in mind that in academia, the reasons for which we publish is to disseminate what we are research on, to contribute to knowledge or expand the frontiers of knowledge. Apart from that, we as technical institutions, we are supposed to engage in applied research. And in that applied research, we are supposed to communicate or report application outcomes from the knowledge that is generated. Very good. Now, there is a need for our published materials or articles to have impact. And as you publish, it is to make you active and make you current on issues pertaining to your discipline. There is no way you can profess everything in this world. So it means that the research that you do is expected to be skewed towards your area. And in order that you contribute, that is why it will be skewed to your area, but because of multidisciplinary research, if anything that pertains to your area is needed, that is when you join other groups and then together, so you contribute what you are good at in that group. Now, apart from that, our students are also supposed to benefit from our research. And the first point, they are the first points when it comes to the research that we conduct. At least it should have impact on them, and then the society at large. Now, let's look at the reasons that that is required. We need in order to select good and appropriate journals. There is this cliche. I don't know whether it's a cliche, but for it, this is publish or perish. Is that thing true today? It can only be true when it has to do with publishing in specific journals today, not anywhere and everywhere. So let's be mindful. They say publish or perish, but you can be publishing and be perishing. That is the paradox in today's world. You can be publishing and perishing. And this calls for you to know where you need to publish your work, and then it has to do also with making your work of quality so that you can publish in specific areas or in specific journals. Now, there are mainly two kinds of journals: the predatory ones and the non-predatory ones. It is very easy to identify predatory journals from non-predatory journals. And in the course of the presentation, we will get to know how to easily identify these ones. So what we want to say right now is that for your research, the effect to be felt, you must publish on the right platform and not anywhere else but the right platform. And it's for the fact that we have these predatory journals. That is why good papers, let me say it, quality papers, end up in these predatory journals because of the inability to select those journals. So oftentimes you will see the list of papers in a predatory journal, and these papers are of high quality, but how did they get in there? It is just because of the selection of the journals. So your ability to identify and to select the appropriate journal for your work is very important, and it can help you grow your visibility. There is also the concern of what we call citation pollution. And currently there is so much work going on in that direction. They are preventing papers that have been published in predatory journals from being referenced by non-predatory journals. This is the work that is going on. They realize that in predatory journals, there are so many papers that have not gone through thorough scrutiny. And so when there is this cross-reference, someone publishing it in a non-predatory journal, sometimes the non-predatory journals, they guide so that the references that you use in your paper before they accept it should not be coming from any journal that they have cited to be what? Predatory. If they see any of those papers, they recognize that they are predatory, and yet you have cited them in your paper that you are writing, they might reject that paper. It is because of the work of not polluting literature. So that is another thing that is going on. Now, when you publish in this quality journals, what we call the non-predatory journals, you are sure of high citations, because those who are signing, those in all parts of the researchers in all parts of the group, you realize that they are all gearing towards being visible in the areas that they do research. And all of them are looking at quality. All of them are looking at what globally it's regarded as quality. So if your work gets into these quality journals, the chances of being cited becomes very, very high. It's not only the citation, but it affords you the opportunity to attract grants. And when we say grants, you realize that most of these funders of research will back publishing houses that publish these high impact journals and quality papers that have several implications in terms of application. So you have Elsevier, which is a recognized house, having funding opportunities. When you go to Mendeley, it is bought by Elsevier, and then they have funding for researchers. When you talk about trust, World Trust, we have Oco Plus One over there that has so many funding because it is being backed by what? Wellcome Trust. So all this, they are there. The funders are there to fund researches from these recognized publishing houses because there is quality attached to their work or all the publications that they come out with. So they cannot afford to allow any predatory journal to dent their reputation. So they have a system structured in order to prevent. That is why the rigorous scrutiny is there. Now, it not only attracts grants, but research collaborations. When you publish in these non-predatory journals, you realize that so many people want to get to that level. And you would publish one paper into a journal, and people from across various points of the group, because they also want to get to that journal, they might contact you with research collaborations. You might not even be part of the research, but they would want you to be part, just for the fact that they read your paper there, and they think that once they team up with you, they can also have the opportunity to get their paper there. So those opportunities come a lot. And this opportunity can come to you only if you get your papers published in on these platforms with the non-predatory platforms. Now, there is also recognition. When we talk about recognitions, we're talking about positions They can be permanent positions. They can be positions that you run concurrently with what you are doing over here. We have guest editor positions. They can invite you as a guest editor or for a special edition of their journal. They can appoint you as an editor. They can even appoint you as a chief editor in or on these world-class journals. So, and you can only get these opportunities when you publish quality papers and in these non-predatory journals. In fact, the opportunities are bound. Now, reviewer invitations. I think here, most of the reviews that we do, there are incentives to it, but we wouldn't know. When those who have been reviewing for severe journals and distance, there are opportunities that are inherent. When you are given a paper to review, they give you almost 3 months access to their database in terms of Web of Science. And it affords you the opportunity to download so many articles as you can, because they want you to use that to review papers. So those opportunities are inherent. Things that you cannot afford getting, you would be able to get those things once you get these review opportunities from these recognized journals. So those are things that come handy when it comes to publishing with these journals. Now, you will not have problems with what we call guest, gift, and post authorship. Now, let me just explain these 3 terms. The guest authorship refers to someone who is established in his field in terms of his recognized in his area, and is known to publish so many papers in that area. So if you are maybe a novice or you are a new writer and then you want to get your paper published, the fact that you put that person's name on your paper is going to influence or facilitate the publication of your work. And so refer to that person as a guest author. Although he might not do any work, but you put him there in order to facilitate your work. So that people do a lot. And you can attain these things only when you publish in this. You can be used as guest author only when you publish on these platforms, recognized platforms. Now, there is also what we call the gift authorship. Now, the gift authorship is someone who is not an expertise or is not known in the area, but you are just adding up his name to the paper in order that he or she may also get what? A paper to his credit. This is a credit. Now, when you are publishing in these platforms, it's help you to eliminate, because a gift author is not someone who would even do or contribute to the work and is not an expert in that area, yet you add him to your distance. It's help eliminate all these kind of things, because they have what we call author credits, which you have to sign to and give the contributions for each and every author before your paper is accepted. Now, the ghost author, it has to do with taking someone's document. The ghost author is someone who has done contributions, or the paper actually majority of what is in that paper belongs to the person, but you take the paper and then publish without the person's name on the paper. So on the platform of non-predatory or quality distance, they help to prevent this kind of ghost authorship, where it means that you have taken someone's work without the person knowing, and you are going to publish it without the person name even on it. So it will be difficult for you to do this because you'll be found out. Now, it also avoids kind of indeliberate plagiarism. That is, most of the platforms of these renowned or quality journals or the non-predatory journals, they have the software, plagiarism checker, placed there, such that before you upload the work, they had already scanned or gone through your work. So you are rejected desktop. Your work will not even be uploaded if it is, for some of them, if it is plagiarized work. So it prevents anything. Whereas in the case of the non-predatory, it goes without checking. And it can even be published without checking that this work is plagiarized or not. So that will hang on your neck as a researcher proceeding forward, because when you publish a material that is heavily plagiarized, later on in your academic life, it will be something tied to you, and then you cannot move forward. So that is a reason, a good reason, we must be looking at publishing on this right platform, which is the non-predatory journal platform. Now, there is also something with regards to ethics. Oftentimes, these journals will not allow maybe double submissions. You submit one article at a time. Likewise, when it comes to conferences. Here we see so many, a conference, and then just a conference, you see one person publishing about 12 or being 12, part of 12 authors. These journals wouldn't like these conferences with regards to these things would not accept this thing. It borders ethics. Because the fact is, how many of these can you run at a time? You are even betraying yourself if you have so many papers, you alone, author or co-author on about 12 distance. It betrays what good this thing is about. It means that some of them wouldn't have done any contribution to them at all. Now, in organizing conferences, some of these issues are there. If you are an organizer, if you are a chairman or a conference organizer, and then you have your papers in that conference, it borders on ethics. So these journals and conferences that they hold prevent these things because they are a member of what? The COPE, which is the Committee of Publishing Ethics. So all those things are above. Now, finding quality journals for publication. Basically, you have to look at three things when you want to find journals for your publication. Non-predatory journals are classified in terms of the database they belong to, the publishing house they belong to, and then the society or institution or organization. These are the three main ways by which you can identify them. And when it comes to databases, you get to the internet and then you look at scholarly databases, it will come to show, this ensure that Scopus is there, the SCI group is there. The SCI group is a product of the Web of Science, and Web of Science, it's also the Clarivate Analytics, and all these things emanated from the Thomson Reuters system. So all these are products from that, and then the Scopus is a product of Elsevier. So you realize that they are so related in such a way that when you come to the publishing houses, you have Elsevier, you have Frontiers, you have Plus One, you have Taylor and Francis, you have Emerald, you have, so there are renowned publishing houses that you can publish your material with. Then societal and institutional and organizational journals. They are also journals that you can publish with, because a society or a scholarly society or institution, organization would not want its reputation to be what? Tainted. So whatever material you send to them, we are sure that they will scrutinize it. Societies like the American Chemical Society, they are recently the top when it comes to citations. They are the first ranked top. Then we have the others also following. So these ones, institutional journals, are journals you can look at publishing with. Now, you go to selecting a journal, just get to this of the databases or the societal distance that we are talking about. Now, when you go there, you check about the scope of the journal. The scope of the journal. The scope of the journal tells you all about the areas the journal operates in terms of research. And then the journals, that is the different type of research material that they look at. Some are into original research, some are into communication, some are into short letters, some are into technical reports, some are into review papers, some are into edited book chapters, some are into, there are so many of them you can look at. And all these ones are regarded as materials of scholarly work. Now, for our promotion as lecturers, these different kinds of journals that I'm talking about are recognized. So we can publish in those areas as such. Now, when you get the journal and you want to publish in, do a background check. The background check you have to do is the periodicity of the publication. How long does it take the journal to publish articles? This information, you can get it on platforms like the Let's Pop. Let Pop is just simply another let us publish, Let's Pop, or the Academic Accelerator. You go there, you just type the journal that you have found and you're interested in what, you check the scope and your area or what you are working on can fit into that journal. So you check and know the periodicity, how long it takes the journal to handle your paper from the beginning to the end of what? Publication. When you get there, it can give you a clue as to whether you want to move further to publish with that journal. If it says that it takes about a year to publish your papers, then you will be informed to make a decision. If it takes 2 weeks, you will be informed to make a decision. So it is very important to do this background check. Now, how difficult is it for papers to be accepted? Some will tell you that it is easy. They put it in simple language. It is easy. It is difficult. It is very difficult. You will see this on the platform when you type. For instance, when you go to laptop and then you key in the journal, it will tell you the frequency of publication, how the duration from submission to publication, and then whether it is difficult to penetrate or to get published in that. And then as well as the speed of the review. All this you can check before you make the submission. Because once you submit and it goes there, it is locked up. It is unethical to submit the same paper you have submitted to one journal to another when it is considered, it's being considered by journal. Now, you also have to know, very important, the impact factor and then the ranking in terms of whether it falls within the first quarter, the second quarter. The first quarter, it's in terms of percentile, is that whether it falls between when it comes to a journal that does publication in your area, maybe journal of mechanical engineering, whether it published when it is in the first quarter, it means that among the top 100 journals in that area, it means yours is within the first 25. And we have something also we call H5 core index that moves you further. That's below the 25. So you must know of all these things because it is good if you publish in a journal that is difficult. You would get benefits. It accrues. You will get a lot of citations. You will get these opportunities I'm talking about. Apart from that, when you subsequently want to publish, aim higher. It means that you should aim at a journal that is more difficult than the first one. Don't be comfortable because you are published in one journal and then every time you are submitting papers to that journal, you have to aim higher each forward. So this is, you have to look at the impact, the ranking, and also you look at whether it is open access or not. Open access or not because of payment. Oftentimes, you will not know this information or you will not do this background check. You submit your paper, and then when it is time for publication, then they will ask you that you should pay $3,000. And let me say here and now that it is not only non-predatory journals that would ask for APC, that is article publication charge. The non-predatory journals should add, but the amount for the non-predatory journal is so high that it's difficult for you to afford. For instance, when you look at Elsevier journals, they are in a range of almost like $1,500 to $5,000 US. I don't know how possible you publish one paper there, two, three, four. Where will you get that money? So there is also a way out. That is, you can use the green access where you would submit your article, and when it is published, there is that kind of pay-per-view. It means that they will lay embargo on it. You cannot access, or people cannot access until they pay. And oftentimes people say that one would reduce because people will not be able to access it. The rate at which your article will be cited will be low. But colleagues on this platform, I would advise that you still must do it that way, because if you don't do it that way, you will not get published in some of these articles, journal platforms. Yours is to just get your this thing published there, and then you see opportunities to come. Now, when you go to the background check and then you found that the journal is suitable and you want to publish with it, then you download the journal guideline or the instructor's guide. That is very important. If you do not use this guide, your work could be rejected desktop. It wouldn't even go. The first point, it should be rejected that your journal does not follow, or you didn't follow the author's guide. So you need to follow every bit of the author's guide when you want to get published in the journal that you have selected, the quality journal you have selected. You read the guideline and then follow religiously all the little things in there you should take note of. The scope, I've mentioned that. The type of journal you are looking at, the journal you are looking at, is it short communication? If yours is short communication and that journal doesn't publish short communication, then it means that you have to change. You don't have to submit an original article when the journal doesn't publish original article but publishes short communication. So you must know that, and you can check that through the author's guide. Every detailed information is provided. Now, you must also look at the format that they expect, whether there should be introduction, there should be methods, there should be results and discussions, conclusions, this. In fact, every journal and its format. So how to approach a journal and be successful in publishing your work depends on following the author's guide of the journal. It is as simple as that. If you don't, you will not get published in that journal. No matter whether your article is of quality or not, you cannot be published. There is a first check. They'll have to check whether you follow their listen. So most of the times, as editor, you would say the thing merits consideration, but the journal's format has not been forward, they say follow. So you have to send message to this, or the system is site designed that you cannot even send. You give it an initial rejection. So you give it to the listener to go format the work according to if he or she wants it to be considered for review. So that is what is done first. Then the title. The title and title with space, title without the space, the characters. So they look at the number of characters, number of characters and not the number of words. You have to take note of that. There, 3 characters. So if it is 75, a title should be of that length, and then you give 100. Just because of that, your work can be rejected. They follow very religiously to the number of words or and then the number of characters. This is very distinct. So it applies to the abstract, the keywords as well. And also there is now an introduction, what we call the graphical abstract. You have to check whether that journal requires of the graphical abstract, where you would put all that is contained in the paper, summarize it in a graph or in graphics. So that is something journals are looking for. Some journals are looking for. Okay. Then whether there should be highlights. Highlights are just bullets, about 3 or 4 bullets with specific number of characters required. That is another entry some journals are looking at. So depending on whether the journal requires of highlights, graphical abstract, you would have to provide it. Absence of that will lead to the rejection of your work because they want everything to be uniform. All papers that are accepted within the journal must have such characteristics. Length of manuscript, that's the number of words. If they say 3,000 words and you go and give 3,200 words, you know that it will be rejected. Whether the journal, so you must also know whether it has its template or not. It's not every journal that will give you a template. They give you, for the author's guide, it's a necessity because that is what they go by. The font size, font type. This you can be rejected because you use the wrong font size and type. And this one, I'm saying it in regards to quality non-predatory journals. They go by this strictly. And I would advise that after this, you go and download any journal from Elsevier, and then you will see in the author's guide these instructions. Yeah. Now, handling figures, the line spacings and line numbering. Let me just say here and now, maybe later on you ask questions. With director's presentation, I think with the comment, he was saying you should give the page, but in other journals, they require that you have what we call the line spaces and numbering. So when you are making revision of your work, you will quote the line number on which you made the revision, so that they know precisely where the revision is made. The page is a big distance, but this helps the reviewers to make, especially reviewers when they are bringing their comment, they will tell you, once you have the line numbering, they tell you online, this word must be changed because it is not this. The technical word does not match with what you want to communicate. So the line spacing is required, and you can be rejected because of that. Figures and tables, how you handle them. Sometimes they would ask that you have the figure insert into the distance, not the figure, but the label of the figure in there, and then the figure is sent at the end or placed at the end of the manuscript. So that instruction needs to be followed. When you submit your work and it's not in that format, they'll reject it and tell you that go and follow the format. And they are not in a hurry for papers to be published. They are there and they want quality. They adhere to quality. So you would have to do it. And they will not instruct you how to do it. They'll just tell you, go follow the distance if you want your work to be considered. Now, figure resolutions. It is not every figure that should be accepted. They will tell you that they want specific resolutions. Some will say that they want resolutions above 300 dpi. And so you must know what they require. They will state it in the author's guide. And then as well, the number of figures that they would want you to put in the work that you're submitting. Now, there is also what we call the supporting information. Supporting information is what information that would, in terms of data and other graphs or things that you cannot put in the main manuscript because of the limitation of the number of tables and distance, you would put them in the supporting information. And they have requirements for supporting information. And in in some journals, even the supporting information you have, they call something data brief. It can be handled in such a way, they can ask you, and it will be handled in such a way that it could even become a paper for you on its own, because that is a pool of data that you are presenting. Now, the referencing style and all those, the number of references and the currency of the referencing is also something that you ask you. Currency in terms of it should not be older than 5 years from now. So it means that all the the citations or references that you have within the list of what references should not age more than 5 years. That will be stated clearly for you. And then the acknowledgement also. Then the disclosure of conflict of interest. Also. Then at the end, there is also what we call the author credits. Now, it's because of this gift, ghost, and all this type of authors, ought to be made to make sure that whatever you submit, all the authors on that have consented to being part of the work, and they would have to sign what contributions they made to the work.
Hello, excuse me, Prof.
Yes.
We are, if you can.
Yeah, I'm on the last slide.
Oh, so, okay, Prof. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, so in conclusion, so for us not to be perishing when we are publishing, it means that we will need to publish with this quality and appropriate journals or get our works in there. In order to avoid cost, but publish in these quality journals, we need to go the green access way. We should also abhor ethics, wrong ethics, such as doing the submission of one paper in different journals at the same time. We should try as much as possible to publish in these quality journals, because that is where we can attract grants and then collaborative research opportunity. And also, so many benefits abound when we publish in these high target channels, and then we would reap the benefits of what it does. So with these few words, this is what I want to share with you this morning. And you have to be mindful of selecting the right journal if you want a paper to be recognized and to receive the citation and the benefits come our way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Yeah, thank you very much, Prof.
You're welcome.
So the right platform must be chosen to ensure that we do not waste our youth.
Yes.
Can the journals come? And there are huge benefits in publishing with right journals. Let me make a statement. The library people were supposed to present before Prof, but because of the line of presentation that Director gave, I wanted us to use this tool so that we can ask questions at the same time. And then after this, the library people will come. So please, Dr. Plockley, please forgive me for this. So the floor is open for questions, both to Director and to Prof. So just raise your hand up, and then once the hand goes up, I'll call you to ask the question, if any. Engineer George Lutrot, you can go.
Yes, sir. Okay. Good afternoon to us all, and Prof, thank you very much for your presentation. Whilst I was listening and then reading through the slides and the presentation given. You made mention of making the right channel to publish your paper. In this circumstance, whereby you choose a journal channel, and then you publish, you have entrusted your will into them, and you've gotten all the criteria and processes which you were supposed to follow as a guide. In this case, you have followed all the processes, and they have approved it.
Can you be brief? Be a little brief so that a lot of people may want to ask.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that after you have presented your paper to the channel, they have done the first review, the second review, and then they've given you the clarification that everything is okay. And then they comes back again after you have paid, then telling you that actually your paper couldn't go through. In this case, what do you do in this regard? Because they've gotten your paper, and in some cases, you realize that they are actually using some of your lines in the paper that you have done, and they try to use it in other form of channels. So in this case, what do you do in this regard? Because it has happened to us.
Yes, it has happened to someone, right?
Yes. Yes. A colleague. It has happened to a colleague. Just this year.
So you see, again, it depends on the journal. Which journal is that? Is
he used Science Direct.
Science Direct is not a journal; it's a platform.
No, what I mean is that he uses through that platform American Society.
ASC.
Yeah.
ASC.
Yeah. ASC. Yeah.
So he was able to get the view that most of the content of his paper was used.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, that can happen. I'm not disputing that it can happen. However, it is definitely you would have to submit your paper. Once you submit your paper, it becomes like of a public. It's not only to you. So the editor or those who handle your paper are supposed to have that, and those they submit it to. So we have what we call the ethics committee. If only you establish that part your paper have in this sense, you can take that thing forward. If only you can prove that that is yours. And how do you prove that? It is very difficult.
Actually, I learned there is the American Society of Engineers. They also have another body that investigates this. So he actually wrote to them, and to date he hasn't gotten a feedback.
Yeah, so if it is written to them and there is not gotten a feedback, then because I don't think that it will be a group thing that they would connive and then would want to use your paper. At least one in the committee will say this is wrong. So that is why I'm saying that it will be difficult for you to ascertain that. But if you ascertain that, and then you have to push it forward. You have to. There are ways, even if not the same journal, but the evidence is needed in order to do that. You can have the same line, the line of thoughts, but what is it? Are you sure it is yours that they are picking from, or that material, that idea, you also pick it from a source? So it becomes a bit difficult in handling that. But there are issues that bother with that. That should not stop you from, definitely when you are submitting a work, you will have to give it out and people have to handle it. Whatever happens over there, it could be to your credit or discredit. But that should not hamper or stop you from submitting your work. You cannot publish without submitting. So you definitely have to. Those things are there, and some group of people can do that, but in handling this, ethics is what we are supposed to approve.
Okay.
It exists. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prof. Dr. Wemega, you can go.
Okay. Just two quick things. Dr. Sabre, concerning the students' projects formatting that you did, I don't think any lecturer would want to bring to you work that. Dr. Sabre.
Yeah, I'm here, madam. I'm listening, please.
Okay. Sometimes you go through the work with them and then you give them the format, sometimes 2 or 3 or 4 times. But then they still bring the work to you, and then you keep telling them the format is wrong. Then they will send the same thing to you, wrong format. So I would suggest that maybe in the final years are taken through, even though I think sometimes they go through it, the final years are taken through this kind of formatting for their work, because we do our very best. Most supervisors do our very best, but they still bring the same wrong formatting to you. That's number one. Number two, if you review, maybe any of Dr. Sabre or Prof can take this. If you review work for any journal, maybe you are a reviewer, you've done like 2 or 3 reviews for it. How good or bad is it for you to also take your paper there for publishing? Sometimes I feel like they are like, you are taking advantage of the fact that you've reviewed, so you are bringing your paper. It's a good journal anyway. Thank you.
I think let me just see if Doc also has some contribution.
Okay.
When you reviewer, you submit to the journal that you review for, there is no wrong, there is no influence. Reviewer, you are not part of the decision making as pertaining to your paper that you submit. When you submit the paper as a reviewer, it goes through the hands of other reviewers who will check on your paper. Now, the only thing is, if you are an editor with that journal, that is where there is a case.
Okay.
So an editor getting his paper published in the journal that he's editing, it's wrong.
Okay.
Just like a conference chair also getting papers published like in his own conference, it's also because it seems that is where influence can be. But the reviewer has no influence. You are just making a comment on someone's paper. Likewise, when you also submit, someone also make comments on your paper, and then it will go through the procedure.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. Plapi, you can go.
Okay, but before
everybody. Please, good afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay. Doc, please hold on. Director wants to put in something.
Yeah, I'm just putting in what Dr. Wemega mentioned. We have also noticed that what I'm seeing about that case is most of the time when the students, for example, now I'm holding the hard copy in my hand as I speak to you on my table, that this format was approved by research assistants based on the soft copy submitted to us. And then when they go and print it, or when you approve it, and they themselves go back and go and touch the format again. I don't know the reason why.
Sometimes, so it's true.
Yes, they go back and they go and touch the format that has been approved, and then they go and print what they have want to touch again. So we are trying to find a way in which when we approve it at our end, and it stays with us, probably the printing will do it at our end. Because Directorate only binds. The students go to, they go and print and then they bring it back, and that is also creating another problem. They shouldn't touch anything. But I don't know, they touch certain things and they go and print the hard copy and bring it, and it's creating a whole lot of things. But with the comments coming in and then what you have also raised, we are looking at ways to solve that particular problem. So we'll look at it and solve it.
Doc.
Yes, Doc.
Yeah, this one, as I've said some time ago, a submission portal which goes through the supervisor's hand before it comes to you is what of it.
Exactly.
There's no way I can guarantee when I tell students to email you what we have agreed on and they go and give you wrong stuff.
Yeah.
How am I going to be in the chain? It doesn't, there's no way I won't hold the person's hand to send the email.
Definitely. If
there's a submission portal, it goes through, and then I know what I have released to DRIPTT. Then everything is solved. Then I know that this is what we agreed on. They sent to me, I checked, and it was right, and I pushed to you. Or they pushed, but I'm in the light. When they pushed, before they pushed. That's the only, yes, sir. Oh, sorry.
Just a small contribution to the review question. You see, once you publish in a particular journal, the journal gets to know you. As Prof mentioned, the journal gets to know you, and then the journal gets to know your expertise. So once you publish there, they target you as a reviewer for other articles related to that area. So there's nothing wrong at all in doing that. There are many journals that even want you to become a reviewer with them because you published with them before, and you are used to how their template is and their questions and answers are. So that one, there's no issue with this at all.
Okay. Dr. Plucky.
Yes, sir.
Please, you can go on.
Okay, so please a little to add to Dr. Kutsinagi's this thing. The first question, so to avoid that, we have what we call preprint. So when you have your paper, you can put in those publishing houses which have the preprint. Preprint is an evidence that when somebody stole your work, it's an evidence that that work is yours. So you can use that as a basis to sue the person if somebody stole your work even before it is published.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I hope you understand.
Yes, Prof. Yes, Doc.
Yes. So before you even send it for publishing, for it, you can send it through the preprint. Preprint is like a system. So preprint, when you pass your work through the somebody steals your work and pass through plagiarism check, the person will be caught that you have stolen your work. That's an evidence.
Hello.
Yes.
I think the information is putting across is not like they have published his work. It is the idea he's talking about, not the work.
Okay.
And the idea, it will be difficult for you to tease out that this is your idea that the person is. Is that not it? It is the idea he's talking about. The person cannot publish a paper like that. That one,
it might not be the whole paper, but maybe some aspects.
So the idea, I think, is the idea that he's talking about, but not the paper.
Okay, that's fine. But then if you copy some aspects of your work, with the preprint will be yes, that it is. Okay, so that is what, and also the Dr. Wemega's one, when it's about printing of student project work, like Dr. Nanayao said, we now also have a giant printer in the library. So we can channel it through us. So we'll print for a small fee. So maybe we'll collaborate more on that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Dr. Fanny Hartman, please, you can ask the question or give your contribution.
Okay. Still on what Dr. Wemega said, on the students' work that after you correct or edit for them, then they go and then print it, and then it's the same mistakes again. It cannot be avoided if you save as a PDF file. It means that after your work, you save it in Word, and then you save as a PDF file. Then everything stays intact. So when they go and print it, once it's a PDF file, nobody can tamper with it, because wherever you go and print, there are some adjustments on that particular desktop or laptop or whatever it's being used to print. So that is what also affects that gives us the changes. But if you put it into a PDF file or you save it as a PDF file, everything remains intact.
Hello, Tarankan.
Yes.
Hello. The problem is, remember, they send the version to DRIPTT in Word. That is where the problem is coming from. When they send you cannot PDF it and send to DRIPTT. It will be very difficult to access the format. The problem is where they now send to DRIPTT after you and them have agreed that this is all right. Now email it. What if they go and pick the wrong files from their PCs and send to DRIPTT? That is the problem. It's not a hard copy problem. DRIPTT must approve the soft copy before it is printed out. That is where the problem is coming from. So that means you cannot PDF, because if you PDF, you are disenabling DRIPTT from doing its work. That is the problem.
All right, so let me just find out. Okay, all right. Go on.
Yes. Hello, Dr. Duncan.
Yeah. So in this case, it's going to DRIPTT for editing before it comes back to you. Is that
not
it?
Editing, verification to ensure.
For verification. Yes. And can't it be done if it's in PDF?
No, it will be very difficult.
Because you are checking to be sure that this font size.
It is Word formatted.
Okay. I think I understand. I understand this. Then they will have to find a way of handling this issue well, because sometimes it's not that the students don't do the right thing, but somehow it is the differences in the formatting principles in the laptops.
I agree with you.
Prof, you want to?
I wanted to.
Okay, Prof, please, you can go.
Barnes should go.
Yes, you can go. You can go. I think I'll get to Barnes again.
All right. So I want to find Director.
Yes, Dean. I'm here.
I noticed that there were a bit of variations in the format that you presented. Is that true?
In terms of which variations, Dean?
When you look at the title page, I realized that there were a bit of changes.
In accordance with what was submitted earlier?
Yes.
Oh, it's not. No, it's the same. That's what we've been using all along.
But is there any change at all in do you have any new material?
No.
There's no change.
So what we submitted the other time, that's what we've been using all along. We haven't changed anything so far.
Because we are using that one, I have been using that one to guide the student. So if there is a change, then it means that we have to update ourselves with the change. The students will be going by what we've been using. That's why I'm asking this question.
Which one is that? Is
the first one? Yes.
No,
if there is a slight change, then it means that we will have to go back and update ourselves so that.
Yes,
because I have been using
this one again.
Exactly.
To everybody.
Because I was seeing that maybe there might be some slight changes. It might not be substantial, but there's some
slight. Okay. So I'll do that and then get this one to the deans and HODs again.
So when you finish the verification, is it not possible to PDF it, then you send to the students?
That is the gap. The gap there is, we should be able to do it, but sometimes the corrections that have to be done, they are so substantial that unless the student is with you and then you sit down and do it with him before, because it will take the research assistants so much time. It would have been easier if the student had been able to do this, all that we've mentioned here, and then when he brings it, all that we see is some minimal things, so we can PDF it at that time. But sometimes the mistakes are so much that it's so difficult to, approve it there without letting the student go back and then do it again. And that is what we are facing. So we just have to insist that they look on the template and then do it, and then find a way for the supervisors to approve it before it comes to DRIPTT. That is what we have to do now, and we are working towards that. Another aspect that Dr. Plucky mentioned is if we have a printer in the Directorate to be able to do that, then it will mean that when it comes to us, the final soft copy will be approved and printed in our office, so it doesn't go anywhere for them to go and make any changes. And with that, we could have done it. So we are working on all that to make it possible.
Yes, but if you want to engage in that, there's going to be, we need a whole printing press.
No, that is also a whole issue, a whole sort of issue.
Because it's not the volume you are looking at. It's not a small.
Yes. You are right.
So when we are taking those decisions, we have to look at those aspects.
Yes. And the machine to do that has to be very strong, not a very strong machine, or the machines to do that. So we are all looking into that. If we're able to get something like that, it means that it will be done at our end. The hard copies, they bring it in different formats, even if the soft copy is approved. And as Dr. Duncan was saying, maybe when they send it to a different machine, it changes some of the formats there.
Yes.
That is it. So we'll look at the PDF aspects and we'll look at the printing aspect and all of that. We'll check all of that.
Okay. Dr. Barnes, your hand was up before you dropped it. Please, if you have something, you can fly, please. After this, we'll move on to the library presentation. Dr. Barnes.
Sorry, please. I just wanted to ask, do you have the same writing format for design project work and then research-based project work? Do you have the same writing format or the same documentation format for the two?
What we did was to just get a template for the chapters and the font sizes and those sort of formats. But if you have, because if it's a design format or maybe it's a different form of within your department, the chapter headings could be different. The content will be different. But this is just about fonts and font sizes.
All right. Director, let me just help a bit.
Okay.
I think the design, when it has to do with design, I think the idea here is to make the research projects uniform as much as possible. Exactly. So, the designs and all those things can fall under the methods.
Okay.
So that if you have a design or these things, everything should fall under the methods. It is a way of making all the research projects that we have in the school as uniform as possible. It wouldn't change the distance, the structure. When you have your design and everything that you have under the methods, the testing, this thing, all under the method, it's okay. It is the template that the school wants to adapt as this. So
I think what Dr. Barnes is saying is more of the design should be more of content related to Faculty of Engineering, and that one we don't look at it at all.
Yes, so
we don't look at it.
The content can be as such, but it should fall under maybe the method so that
exactly.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much for the questions and the clarifications and the responses. So Dr. Plucky and Mr. Donus Bwedi will be presenting on information literacy for final year students, HND and BTech students. Please, you can take the floor.
Thank you very much, Doc. I'm presenting on assessing ATU library electronic databases. Prof has talked extensively on this, and so I'll be very snappy with my presentation. Most of the things he talked about in the researcher publishing, the reverse is also true for searching for information. And so one of the things that is looking for author guidelines and all, those similar things you also do when you want to search for information. They're looking for the right databases and all. Now, databases.
Excuse me, could you raise your voice a little? I cannot hear too clearly here.
Oh,
but
sorry.
I don't know about the others. Yeah,
I'll do that. Thank you very much. And so I was saying that Prof has talked extensively on the journals and the databases. And so I'll be very snappy with my presentation. And then I was also saying that what I'm trying to say is that the database, when it comes to databases, getting the right kind, it gives access to the right kind of information that you need as a researcher. Because as a researcher, there's so much information out there that can overwhelm you. And so you need to get the right source to be able to, right source of information to be able to do your work. And databases give us that. The library collects databases so that we enable access for our faculty members to be able to use them. Now, the databases, what they do is that they provide us with very authentic, validated information for users. And because they are peer reviewed, we are very sure that the information that they are getting from this source is authentic. For instance, if you have if you are given unlimited money, you have access to unlimited money to buy, say, electronic appliances, and you had the option of either going to Accra Central Market or going to Bosch Home Appliance to go and buy. Definitely you go to Bosch Home Appliance because you know that they are experts in the field, because you know that you can get quality materials from there. Accra Central, you are not very, if you are not too much of an expert, you can't be sure that you are going to get the right kind of information. That is what databases do. And so databases are very good source of information for researchers, and the library has them. In ATU Library, we have a number of them. And so some of the databases that we have the Sage Publications, we have the Sage Research Methods, we have Emerald, ExpoHost, a whole lot of them. You can see the list on the screen. And recently we've added on IGI Global. And for those in the engineering field, I'll give a list of databases that you can access and use for your research. Now, how do you access these databases that we have? When you go to the university webpage and you go to the library tab that you can see on top here, the arrow pointing to the library tab. When you click on it, you will see a drop down that shows library, off-campus e-resource, on-campus e-resource, ATU pattern e-books. Now, for the databases, you have the off-campus and then the on-campus. You click on any of them, it will give you access to the database. When you click on campus, it takes you straight to a list of sources that we have. And you can see on the left side, we have the URLs for the databases, that when you click on it, it takes you straight to that database. Then on the right side, you have the description of the databases. So what you have to do is to read the description. When you read the description, it will tell you which subject area the database collects information on. And so, for instance, when you look at the first one, which is Sage, you see that it's majors mostly in the business and the humanities. Even though there's technology and medicine, when you look at the description to give you the areas that they major in. And so for the engineering department, when you read them, the description, you can tell which ones fit your subject area. Now, another way to also access the database is to go straight to the atu.edu.ga/library to also take you straight to the e-resource page. And when you click on that, it will give you access to the e-resource. You also have the off-campus access. For the off-campus, you need a login. When you are on campus and you use the on-campus access, you have straight access. But when you are off campus, you cannot use the on-campus access because the IP is, you don't have the IP there, and stuff. It will not recognize your IP. And so you need the off-campus access. And for the off-campus access, you need the login details to be able to access our databases. And for the login details, you have the username being ATU staff. You can see it on this side. Username ATU staff, one word. So you type in ATU staff, and then the password is ATU_staff, ATU_staff. And then when you key in these login details, you have access to the database. Now for Faculty of Engineering, these are some of the major resources that you can take advantage of. Obviously, the IEEE is there. We have deep journals. They also major in the physical sciences. We have the Royal Society of Chemistry, which is there. We have NRC, researchpress.com. We also have the Oxford journals, and then you can see some of them also in Sage journals. And so you can scan through all the databases that we have as you read the descriptions. It gives you the ones that would help you in your research. Now, how do you access these databases? As a general way of getting access to this database, first you have to know what exactly you are looking for. What exactly are you looking for? That is, you must define your information need. Now, if you're able to define your information need, you narrow them to the point where you have your key terms. You have your key terms, the keywords. And so if you listen to Prof, we were talking about if as you publish, you have to tease out your keywords. It's the same when you are also looking for information. You have to look out for what keywords you need to be able to access the information. So the same idea that you use in publishing, you can also turn around that same idea to also search for information in these databases. Now, after you've gotten your key terms, then you have to look for the sources. Like I said, you read the descriptions, and then you know which of the sources, which of the databases has information that is in your subject area. Then after you've narrowed down on which sources to use, you have to now look at the databases, their search functions. There are search functions in those databases. The search functions, you can get them when you when you click on the help button. It gives you information on how to use the database very well. And so there are so many inbuilt functionalities in the search button. And you as you read about those functionalities, will help you to easily use the database to get the right kind of information. And so some will tell you that a lot of them use the Boolean search function. And so if you know how to use the Boolean search function, you can get information. Some also use other functions like the phrase. Some also use other functions like the wildcard, which in subsequent webinars we will talk about them. And so when you read them, they'll show you how to use those tools to be able to find the right kind of information. And after you've done that, you run your search. And then the information that will be retrieved, you can tell whether you are getting the right information or not. So you review and you refine accordingly if it so happens that you are not getting the right information that you need. It could also be that the key terms that you are using is not right. So you can also, or those key terms have not been used in that particular database. So you can use synonyms of those key terms. You can also change the database that you are using, use another database, use the same functionalities and try and see. And as you do that, you get the right kind of information that you want. So for instance, in deciding on the key terms, one of the ways is to, for an example here, the health implications of water pollution. Probably this is your topic. You look for what are the keywords in the topic. The keywords are health. You have health, you have water, and then you have pollution. Health, water, pollution. And so when you take health, you have to look for the synonyms for health. Some of the synonyms you can give to health is illness, diseases. You do same for water, you do same for pollution. And so in searching, you try health and you're not getting the right kind of information. You try illness, you try diseases. And then water, you try all the other synonyms there. And as you refine your searches, you are likely to get the right kind of information that you need. And in using the search tools, I said earlier that a lot of the databases have inbuilt functionalities that will help make your search better. One is the Boolean operators. And the Boolean operators, as you know, has used the and, the or, the not. So you see that in the advanced search engine, you see maybe 3 different fields created, one for and, one for or, and one for not. Now the and helps you to find data that has both concepts. So health implications of, you are looking for health implications of water pollution. So the key terms are health, water, and pollution. Now you can combine, you're looking for health, water, and pollution. Combining this concept will help you find every information that has all these 3 concepts in using the and search tool. And then using the or search tool is for the synonyms. So if it is health, you can use health and illness, health and disease, health or illness, health or diseases. And so every material, every information that has either health or diseases in it will return such, will be retrieved for you to be able to use. And then the not, we only use it when we don't want to the query to retrieve certain items. So maybe you are looking for health, but you don't want anything related to disease. Even though it's health, you don't want anything related to disease. So you use the not to block every information that has disease in it. And you don't use the not, to say you use the not sparingly, you don't use it that much, because when you use it, you are likely to also lose information that may be either too vital to the work that you are doing. And then some also use the phrase search. So where in the basic search function or the advanced, you can still use phrases. That is the simple approach that most of us use, especially in Google and others. In the databases, you can use it, you can type in the phrases, exact phrases, and it will help you to get the information that you want. Then you have the proximity searching. So sometimes you can say you want health implications and whatever. And you get an information that has both health and pollution in it, but they don't relate in any way. So one of the ways you can ensure that what you want is about health and pollution is to enter the key terms such that health is very close to pollution and get information on health that relates closely to pollution. And so in doing proximity search, you say that maybe find information on health which is within maybe 5 words of pollution. And so health will not be too far away from pollution. And then wherever you find health, within 5 words, you will see pollution too, which means that you are getting the kind of information that is more related to health pollution. Then you have the case sensitivity truncation for words that have alternative spellings, words that have different ways of spelling them, yes. And then the relevance between phrase searching. All these ones are in the databases. You need to read the help function. When you go and key in you click on the help button, it will give you how each database how you can search for information in each of the databases. They all do not use the same approach. So when you read them, it helps you to be able to know how this particular database, you can find information in them. And once you know this, it makes it easier for you to get the right kind of information that you want. Now, we also have the catalog, the online catalog, where you can also request for books. You can also request for books that you've seen in the library. And so when you go to the library page, you see the OPAC page. You just you look for the information that you want. If you know the title, you look for the information that you want. To get it, you request the library to place a hold on that material for you. And you do that, and we can deliver it to you in your offices so that you have access, you have the time to do your research. And so there are so many ways to have ebooks. Ebooks as well that you can take advantage of. And ebooks on our Zenodo platform. When you go to the page where you see the ebook session, it will take you straight to the designated platform where we have a number of ebooks, about 2,000 ebooks. And when you search through them and you see any material that is useful to your research, you request access to it, and then the library will grant you access to it. So this is how you can access materials in the library. So you are welcome to do that, and we are also here to help you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so that's the end of the presentation. Hello, sir.
Yes,
is
sir.
that the end of the?
Yes,
that's the end of it.
Yes, please.
Okay. Please, if we have questions, let me make a comment. If you have questions, you can raise your hands up, and then I will call you. Mr. Librarian,
yes, sir.
Is it possible to have some of these procedures typed out and then distributed to us so that it's easy to just sit in my corner somewhere and do something with it?
Okay, that's possible. But we have also started our YouTube channel where we are doing a tutorial series. So a lot of these ones, we'll be taking them database by database and doing a series on them on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
So that will be also get information. So once when you do any tutorial and put it on the YouTube channel, you get a notification. And
okay. Thank you very much, sir. Please, any question, any comment or clarification, so we can go into the next presentation. Okay, so let's move to the next set of next presentation. The next presentation is by Dr. Glenn Kwabnajima. He's a lecturer and the acting head of research, innovation, and grants at the DRIPTT. If he's there, he should just take away and continue. He's going to give a presentation on oil film characterization of PTFE during EHL point contact and pure rolling tribology tests. So, Doc, you can take over. Can I recommend that those of us who are at the meeting, if we are not if you are not the one on giving the platform, you put off your mic so that if there is any disturbance, the presenter is not distracted, please. Thank you very much.
Engineer David is finding a problem with his device. It goes on and comes on again. So I've been muting him most of the time, but it comes back again. So if we can call him and so that he checks his device, it's coming on and going off. You mute, it comes back. That is the only one. He's the only person. That's the only problem.
Okay. I'll do so.
All right. Thank you, moderator. Yeah. Am I loud and clear? Hello?
Yes, it's clear.
All right. Thank you. Right. I'm Glenn Kwabnajima. As already said, I'm doing this presentation on a research work that I just finished. It has been published actually. So the title of the presentation is the oil film characterization of PTFE, that is polytetrafluoroethylene, that is the PTFE, during the EHL, which also stands for elastohydrodynamic lubrication, point contact, and pure rolling tribology tests. The presentation in brief is captured under the introduction, the experimental methods, the lubrication design and properties, the tribal system test, the numerical methods, the theoretical analysis, and then conclusion and recommendations. To start with, the aspect of the introduction, EHL is applied to a hydrodynamic lubricated rolling contact element that operates under very severe conditions such as high loads, causing an extremely high interfacial pressures, then also significantly causing elastic deflection or deformation of the structural materials in contact. And this is being analyzed under what we call the global geometry of surfaces. And that is to say that we have the conformal kind of contact surfaces, and then we have the counterformal kind of contact surfaces. And with this particular experiment, the kind of geometrical surface analysis we used was the counterformal kind of engagement, and that is prescribed predominantly under what we call the bearing and ball rolling contacts. Now, what are some of the significant, or what led to this particular research to be conducted? There is a high challenge on the issue of giving operational conditions and structural parameters in a tribological systems. And for that matter, they often suffer the issue of deformation, the friction, the heat generation, and wear. And this has become an issue in the tribological system. So when we talk of tribal system, we are talking about an operation condition that involved components coming in contact with each other, whereby there are input of, let's say, parameters, and as a result of the internal engagement of the materials in contact, they are also able to release some information outside, or the external parameters. And those situations often are found in various kinds of applications in our day-to-day activity. So those are the very applications we are going to analyze. And then the challenges that it poses with those situations, and how this particular research is able to address most of these issues. Now, looking at the applications, we have the issue of our normal rollers, balls, the tapers, the GS, the tractors, and then also the come and followers. So all these applications are known to be having the issue of the plastic deformation, issue of friction, heat generation, as the materials come in contact with each other to facilitate the drives and movement of all other industrial plants, and then also our automobile vehicles as well. So, and when that happens, this is what happens. It causes high contact stress to the materials in contact. And then the film thickness that is supposed to separate the two materials in contact also gets thinner and thinner. And then as a result of that, there is an excessive pressure at the contact zone that results into what we call the elastic deformation, and so forth and so on. And that is the main reason that led to the development of this particular topic, the liquid and then solid lubricant under the EHL regime with the micropolar theory. And so there are a lot of things that goes into this research to be able to unravel the kind of situation that happens to increase our maintenance cost in our vehicles, increase maintenance cost in, let's say, our industrial plant, increase maintenance issues in every moving system that involves materials coming into contact. Now, looking at the scientific situation, the nature of a ball running in a bearing is seen to be having this stress situation. And so as a result of that, you can analyze it as this scenario to be able to know the point at which the challenges are being found. But there is a way of trying to address it, which is a theory propounded by the Hertzian. So the Hertzian theory, or the Hertzian region, enables us to have a critical analysis of the materials in contact and the region at which the contact took place, and as a result of that, how to be able to come out with solutions that would enable us to have less stress contact of moving materials that will eventually reduce the friction generation that leads to the formation of heat and then the wear and tear on most moving components that we find in our automobile sector and then the industrial front as well. Now, if we are to look at the situation in area of wear, we realize that the concept of under the wear, we have the polishing issues, we have the adhesive issues, we have the abrasive issues, we have the oxidation issues, we have the corrosive issues to fight with. Then coming under the scuffing, the micro scuffing and the macro scuffing are also some issues that at the end of the day, it comes out in most of our moving equipment. Then at the area of fatigue, you can also see the macro pitting and then the spelling that also comes as a result of the contact and then the stress that forms between the two components in contact. Now, looking at the lubricant design, we came out with the target of ensuring that our lubricant that we want to come out with, which should be able to ensure that there is a consistent film thickness between moving parts within a period of time to avoid the contact of two materials that would generate heat, would facilitate wear, and will cause components to fail. We thought of creating lubricant at low viscosity, at extreme pressure, and also extreme temperature, then oxidation resistance, and then the pour point. And so we came out with our own formulated lubricant, which we have what we call the type 1. The type 1 lubricant is the mono SAE number 30, which is a lubricant we can find in the market. Then we came out with the PTFE, that is polytetrafluoroethylene, which is a solid lubricant. However, we were able to atomize it in another system to be able to have it homogeneously mixed with the type 2, which you can see on the screen, the type 2 lubricant that we obtained. So this type 2 lubricant became what we experiment on to see its potential in trying to be used in this elastohydrodynamic lubrication system to ensure that the film thickness stability that seems to have been failing in most of moving vehicles, most of industrial machines running, we are able to arrest it. So this is a formulation that we were able to come out under this particular research. Now, out of that material, we did a bit of rheological studies, the study of the lubricant to determine the various characteristics and then the properties, both physical and then the chemical properties of that lubricant. And some of the findings are that which has been indicated about the reflect index and then the compositions and then all that are shown there. Now, looking at the outcome of the material that we designed, it was expected to be tested under diverse kind of rheological situations to be able to find out the rheological properties of the material. And by that, a viscometer was designed. This was customized to be able to derive the needed information we needed in the lubricant. And so it was an experimental setup that was designed out of the principle of cylindrical viscometer. So we came out with this design to be able to gather data concerning the lubricant, and the properties that we looked at are being outlined there, and the values obtained by our experimental setup are also shown over there. Now, we further analyzed the lubricant under what we call the relative optical interference intensity. That is the ROII techniques. It is what it stands there for is the relative optical interference intensity. This uses light to be able to analyze the oiled film thickness. And by that, we did a setup which is based on this principle or this technique. And we were able to use the infrared system to be able to diagnose or locate the very point of contact between the disc and the ball. So we now use the disc as one component and the ball as another component that are in contact, and that is generating the counterformal kind of surface that I spoke about as the method that we use. So by that, we were able to do a bit of analysis to find out the formation of the film thickness within the contact, measure the various parameters that goes into that contact to be able to come out with the findings and to help us model our appropriate film thickness condition that will be able to increase the stability to ensure that the components, if run by this lubricant, are able to have the needed film thickness, separating the two components within the period of time expected to run. So this is one of the methods that was adopted in this particular research. Now, the other thing that we also consider, this is the basically the setup that was used in trying to do the analysis. And the concentration was at the point of what we call...
Let me interject small. You have about 8 minutes.
All right. So I quickly want to run through the methodology and then I'll give the results. Right.
Okay.
So at this point, we looked at the point at which the material had the minimum contact engagement. And then also at the point where we have what we call the central kind of engagement. So we have the HC and then the HM. So those things were analyzed by the help of the infrared kind of measuring instrument that help us to do the data capturing, right? So the results were being computerized by these formulas, as you can see. But for the sake of time, I moved on to the second method that was used, and that one was under the Hamrock and Dawson's theory, which is also used in the numerical analysis of the film thickness to be able to find out the stability of the film thickness between the moving parts. So we also use the Hamrock and Dawson's theory, which is also which helps us to find it numerically, the central film thickness and then the minimum film thickness. Now, the other theoretical analysis that was used was the point contact analysis that was done to find out the spread of the elastic deformation, which was also done with this formula. And so we were able to use that one to also analyze the kind of contact that happened. Then we also investigated the aspect of heat, thermal elastohydrodynamic lubrication in that point contact analysis. Because we know that as long as components are coming together and working within a period of time, the formation of heat is inevitable. And so we need to do the thermal analysis. So we use this under the two-phase lubricant concept to be able to analyze, and we dealt with that under using the various formulas to be able to analyze it properly. Now, the last kind of theory that we use to verify whether we are on track or not is the micropolar effect on the two-phase solid liquid lubricant. And that also enabled us to be able to find out the simulation and then the formation of the pressure and then the film thickness profile. So that led us to the results that we were able to come out with. But the analysis, we did what we call the stationary contact and then the dynamic contact or the moving contact. By the stationary contact, we did what we call the line analysis, and then we have the rectangular slim analysis. So the rectangular slim analysis and the line analysis both gave us these findings, which are shown in the slide. You can see the line analysis is where we have the red line analysis. So the analysis was done solely on the line by the use of the infrared system and the data capturing of this. Then the rectangular shape analysis too, we use that area which was captured rectangularly to do the analysis, which the findings now is shown over there to depict what kind of stability that the film thickness will have. Now, when you look at the issue of the pure rolling, when it is moving, the one we saw was a stationary condition, but this is when it is on a motion. as a vehicle on a motion, a moving mechanism on a motion. How is the film thickness stability like? So on the line analysis, you can see the distribution over there, and that of the rectangular slim to the distribution shown over there. Now, and these are all at different conditions. The temperatures are not the same at different temperatures, at different pressure, and then at different coefficient viscosity of the oil. So all these, you can see the information down there, indicating the various parameters at which all these things were being analyzed. Now, we also look at the issue of the relative optical interference intensity too. We realize that it also gave us data to be able to confirm whatever those analysis the previous one gave us. Now, we also have the result from the Hamrock and Dawson, as also comparing with all the various ones that we've had. And then that led us to the theoretical analysis. So how is the film thickness distribution and then the pressure distribution found? And by the theories that were used, we're able to get the various distribution, which confirm the various data that we have, that there is a film thickness stability with this design lubricant running under various conditions as compared to the mono lubricant being used. So we then tabulated the various conditions of the material without the additives, and then those ones with the additives. So in conclusion, we realized the film thickness stability as a function of load, speed, and additives were highly confirmed by both the experimental method and the numerical method adopted in this particular research. And so there is a very strong correlation that was obtained both for the line analysis and then that of the rectangular slim analysis. And that was confirmed by a reference that was being quoted here. Then also we have the situation to confirm that the load weakness, the load weakens the film thickness stability of the base oil. That the base oil is the mono oil without the PTFE. So those ones, they realize that load weakens it. The temperature also weakens it, and therefore the film thickness stability becomes very, very poor. But as compared to the ones with the improved PTFE as an added lubricant, so that has increased the film thickness stability from as low as 3 to about 7% increase. So now we also could talk about the viscosity, which was a function of the pressure, and this had a big influence on the film thickness. So that was something that was discovered as part of the experiment, and it was confirmed by a previous work done by us, where we added the PTFE as a modifier in trying to find out the rheological study of those lubricants. Then also the solid them also confirmed that the film thickness stability improved as compared to the previous. Finally, the Hertzian contact region, the pressure variation was very smooth. Now, it also says that there was no abrupt pressure variation. That is what we call the spike. There was no spike. So that means it shows that the stability of the material was good, because there's no failing point. There was no point where the P becomes 0 that the material will fail, for the system to fail, for them to have a breakdown. So that is basically the outcome of the research. So these are some few references that support our work. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So conformal and non-conformal. Okay. So please, if you have any question, just raise your hand and I'll call you to ask. But before that, Doc, I have 2 comments. Where was this? Where is the experimental laboratory? Where was it? Is it in ATU?
Not in ATU.
It's in ATU.
No, please, not in ATU. It was done at University of Technology.
It was done where?
South China University of Technology.
Okay. Secondly, the viscometer you designed.
Sure.
I'm sure this is supposed to be like trying to add to industrial conversations. How close is it to the viscometer that is used in industry to test the tribology of the components in the formulation, the lubrication formulation we're doing? How close are your viscometer to that?
Right, Right. Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you for the question. You realize that with the regular viscometer that is being used in the industry, in trying to find out the biological studies of all the properties of a lubricant, most often the temperature or the information capturing, it's always like it's almost the same, or it's just one medium of capturing information.
Okay.
The study we did about existing viscometers that were being used in the industry, for example, the temperature capturing device is just one, the barometer is one. If you look at the viscosity capturing system, is also one. And so we realized that supposing a system had become used to a lubricant for a long time, the ability to replicate that its nature is so easy. And that means that error margin, you can't control error. So what happened is that we redesigned, and then we did bring in a double check for, let's say, viscosity index capturing was, we had two different devices transmitting the viscosity to us. Then we also had a two different systems transmitting the temperature as a regular one. We try to do a bit of increasing redundancy, therefore we'll be able to be so sure of the data that we are capturing.
Okay. Please, any other person who wants to comment, ask questions, seek for clarification? Any other person? Okay. Dr. Hankan, is your hand up, or is the previous hand that was up? Okay.
I think it's the previous hand. Let me take it out.
Engineer Nanga, please, you can fly. Old man Ananga, your mic is off.
Yeah, thank you very much. My question is actually not on the last presentations, on the previous ones. First of all, I want to find out how many topics are chapters, are we talking about when it comes to ATU, HND, and PTEC? How many chapters are we considering the students to write for the standards? Number two, I want to know what actually goes into the abstracts writing, the description of the project or paper or whatever, or it is the summary or the outcome of the paper project is being from Professor Kutinaze. Does it mean those journals that are considered, excuse me to use the word inferior, we are not supposed to
your line is okay.
My third question is about the dean's presentation. We have journal, and one being, excuse me to use the inferior, that even if you take citation from the side, consider it as your work will not be published. Does it mean all those papers that are published, we couldn't get any good work that we can cite to write a project or write a paper that will become useful to the society? Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Asabre, please take the first one, and let Prof will take the second and the third.
Okay. The first one, Ananga, the number of chapters by standard is 5. That is what we put in the template. So the chapter 1 is the introduction. The introduction chapter will contain a background. It will also contain their objectives, research questions, problem statements, organization of the study, and then the significance of the study. Chapter 2 is the literature review. In any literature that they review as part of their research, based on the keywords of their title, is for chapter 2. Now, the chapter 3 is a methodology. It differs from department. For example, it can be design in engineering. It can be methodology in business or applied science. It depends on the department and the actual methods that they are using. And then the chapter 4 is the findings and results. So if it is in computer science, for example, what we do is, because we produce either a software or hardware system, the students propose these artifacts. It goes into that chapter. Whatever has been done in an electrical, related to maybe an Arduino board or something that they have produced, they should have a report on that in the chapter 4. And then finally, the chapter 5, they conclude and have some recommendations. That is it by standard. That is how it should be. I hope that one is clear.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Okay. Prof is not online, but maybe I can answer the second one.
Yeah. Dr. Asabra, you can take it so that we can move to the
second one was about, if you could repeat again so that I can get it well.
Yeah, my question is, what actually goes into the app?
The abstract. Okay.
Yes.
The abstract normally has about 6 or 7 elements. A standard abstract has that. Anybody who is reviewing an abstract will expect that the abstract will have a background of the work, a brief background, very short. The problem that is being solved, a summary of the problem that is being solved, the methodology that is being applied in the whole research work, and then the results, a brief summary of the results, and then after the results, if there are any practical implications or benefits that will come with the work, then you add it to it. So the main elements that is looked for are the background, the methodology, the problem that is being solved, and then the results. So if you check an abstract and these are not in, the summary of your results is not there, the problem that is being solved is also not there, the background is not there, and then the methodology you applied is also not there, then it's a problem. All of these elements should be within an abstract. Always be there.
Okay.
And then the third question.
I asked because some of the the final one, yes.
The final one, the thing was breaking. So
I didn't hear well, but you can ask now. I'll answer you. I'll try my best to answer you.
Okay, thank you. The final, I said, Dean mentioned 2 types of journals, and it's like one is not a good site for publication. So if you take citation from there and you publish in a good site, when they check it, they may reject the work.
Yeah.
So my question is, does it mean all those papers that will be there, we couldn't find anything good over there to sites for a good work?
It is, you see, the disadvantage or the main disadvantage is, you see, once it's predatory, even if the article is good and it goes there, citing from there brings a whole lot of problems to you, your paper that you want to submit somewhere else. Because you see, there are predatory journals that now, even you cannot get access to the articles. When you go to the journal, it's no more there. They were there maybe some 5-6 years ago, they got their money and now they are off. So it is always advisable that if you are writing, then you don't even look there at all. Go to the good journals straight away and start citing from there. There are many predatory journals now that if you type www.whatever, you want to have access to an article that you wrote in the past, you won't get it. Not there. The website has gone down and they are no more. They've made their profits and they are gone. So citations should always come from good journals and then you won't have any problem at all.
Thank you very much.
Okay. One of the ways is also go to the Scopus webpage and then go and type the journal name there.
Exactly.
If it's a correct place, it will pop up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, our final and our second and final, our third and final presentation is on pH adjustment of ATU hostel groundwater using hydrated lime. This is going to be presented by Dr. Sarah, Engineer Dr. Sarah Fanny Hackman Duncan. She's a lecturer and she's the Vice Dean, Student of Affairs. So, Dr. Duncan, you can take over.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Abuchi. I'm trying to share. So can I share now?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I did a few changes on the title. So now the title has changed just a little bit. It's the same. It's now the effect of pH adjustment of Accra Technical University hostel groundwater using hydrated lime. Actually, we are still in the preliminary stages because we had some few challenges, but let me finish and then we'll talk about that. So as we all know, groundwater contains a high concentration of natural occurring mineral, which may or may not be processed anyway. And it ensures an uninterrupted supply of water whenever the municipal line is unavailable, owing to main breaks, pipeline repairs, or maybe lack of municipal water output. It also provides a constant supply of clean, fresh water for drinking, cleaning, and other household tasks, and is ideal for usage by individuals, businesses, and institutions. It also helps alleviate the strain on city water supplies, and is also a green way to keep your businesses running during water shortages. Hydrated lime is usually the most common that we use in the water treatment works for pH adjustment. So it indicates that it's for water drinking. So when we use it for whatever we want to do, we could drink the water from the groundwater or the borehole. So the lack of water on campus is impeding students' studies and is making life on campus unbearable, as students sometimes have to walk out of campus to queue for water. The tanker supply service is also not regular, and the abandoned groundwater at the new hostel was recovered and supplied to students only to be informed that they are having body itching and so on. And some even complained of rashes on their skin. There is a growing need for the water, and the lack of municipal water supplies, they have a severe influence on students' socioeconomic well-being and health. Washing, showering, cooking, cleaning, and drinking water are all default tasks for students. And students spend a lot of water on bottled and sachet water, which drives up the cost of living on campus. And due to the continual disruption of the municipal water supply line and inconsistencies in the supply of tanker supply service, this research seeks to adjust the pH of the groundwater to relieve students of itching, as well as prevent corrosion in the pipes and fixtures. So the main objective is to determine the effect of pH adjustment of the Accra Technical University hostel groundwater using hydrated lime. And specifically, we are to ascertain the quality of ATU new hostel and clinic ground. We decided to go for all the abandoned wells before we chose the one that we worked on. And they had some information, an old one on the quality, and we also did one. Then we did a pH adjustment of the ATU new hostel groundwater using the hydrated lime in a batch study. Then we determined the effect of the pH adjustment on the use of the new hostel groundwater. What is happening is that we usually know that pH adjustment is used to correct the pH, but in our work, we realize that other issues pop out. So that is what we are going to find out very soon. Then we wanted to go into treating it using column study and most probably pilot studies, but we are challenged in a way, and that will also come up. So for the methodology, we'll be sampling the groundwater, doing the analysis at the Ghana Water Company Limited, and we'll be doing the pH adjustment using the jar test procedure in the batch test. And later, when Dean, you have to support me in this, in getting some sponsorship for the practicality of this aspect, we do the pH adjustment using the column test and pilot test. So this is the jar test that was used for the work. And the lime was prepared, and then a few 5 ml was taken and put in, and it was stirred for some few minutes, and it was allowed to settle, and the decanted water, or the clear water was sampled for the test. So this is what we got from, if we say student new hostel 1 is the one at the new hostel, and then student 2 is the one at the close to the old hostel. Then we did that of the clinic, because we wanted to see how come the clinic one is being used with less complaints as compared to that one at the hostel. So from the results, we could see that the pH for the new hostel was 5. That of the clinic was 7.1, which is within the 6.5 and 8.5. And then the new hostel, the old hostel one was 6.5, which means that it doesn't really need pH adjustment because it's just on the threshold. Conductivity is also high, most probably because of the presence of chloride, which is within the 430 and 490 range. We are continuing with the physicochemical analysis. The rest of it, the cations and anions, did not have much of it, as in it was all within the standards. However, the bacteriological analysis indicated that plate count was high, total coliform was high, and E. coli was high, when actually there's supposed to be nothing inside coming from bacteriological contamination. We actually did the analysis within within some months. The first one was done in May, and this one was done in August. We are trying to do another one, especially during this time, during the dry season, and the samples have been taken to the ATMA office. We're given a slim chance of doing that because we wanted to test for sodium and aluminum, which the headworks couldn't do the test for us. So the same things happened again, the same sequence happened again. But this time the pH for the new hostel was 4.9, and that's for the old hostel was 6, and then that's of the clinic was 7. So the sequence is the same. Turbidity is a bit low, and then we have chloride also still within the 400 range when the standard is supposed to be 250. Then again, the cations and anions didn't have much of a problem. But then the bacterial analysis during this time again had some contamination, which is not supposed to be there. During the jar test, we prepared a certain quantity, and we prepared 1%, and then we put, that is, we prepared a concentration of 0.01%, and then in 1 liter, and then we took out 20 ml, 25 ml, 30 ml, 35 ml, because we wanted to vary the concentration and then see what will happen with the pH adjustment. And then we looked at adjustments with the chloride as well as the bacteriological content, which I couldn't put here. So this is what happened. Turbidity increased anytime that we increase the amount of the lime that has been mixed. And pH also increased as we increase the amount of lime, up to a certain point where it started, increasing again. But then with the chloride, it started reducing. And this much could be due to maybe the presence of aluminum or any other metal, a trimetallic ion or a dimetallic ion that could also take part in some of these reactions that could take place. So that as it reacts, it forms a precipitate and it could be added to the sludge that was increasing as we increase the lime that was added. So looking at the pH adjustment, I said we're only looking at the pH adjustment so that we could use it so that students will not be itching and then the fixtures will also not corrode. However, it was realized that chloride kept on reducing and within this range of Ghana standards, and then there was a reduction also in bacteriological content up to 0, actually, also with the addition of lime, which we did not anticipate. So in conclusion, after careful study of the parameters of the samples taken from the source, it was discovered that samples contained much chlorides, resulting in low pH values and making the groundwaters acidic. And in addition, the groundwater was contaminated with pathogens. And then the batch test using lime indicate the following. There was a pH increase up to within the range, and then there was a reduction in chloride, and there was a reduction in bacteriological content. For the column test, like I said, we'll need some kind of funding for us to go into it because there are so many things that we have to do and buy and test for. So most of the challenges was with distilled water. We were actually collecting small distilled water from SLT. However, their machine is down, so there's no distilled water on campus. So we couldn't continue with the work. It's been like that for about a month. And then other lab equipments and apparatus too, sometimes we have to share. You go and then they'll tell they had a class, measuring cylinder timer and things like that. So those were some of it. And then financing the analysis of the water samples that we collected also was a problem. So we need funding. So I would be writing some proposal, and then Dean, please, you have to help. And Director of Projects, DRIPTT, please, I'll come and see you. Then the recommendation is that pH adjustment be done using column and pilot studies to ascertain the practicality of bulk use in a continuous flow. That is why we need the funding. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm done, Dr. Purdue.
Okay, so as we've been doing before, you can raise your hand and I'll call you. But let me start the ball rolling by making a few comments. The first one is this. The initial analysis that was done before you started, you planned. What was the charge balance of the analysis? That shows the charge balance is what checks the quality of analysis that has come out from the lab. What was the charge balance of the analysis?
I didn't do the calculation. I think I'll have to do it.
It's important you have that, because even if you get it done and you want to publish it, if your charge balance is not there, nobody will look at it. So check the charge balance. 2, there was a statement that the pH was low because of chloride. In your conclusion, no. pH is either high or low because of the buffering effect of the ground. The ground you're dealing with is granite, and granites have a lot of aluminosilicates, which take time to break down with quartz. So most of the waters you find in the granitic areas are very acidic because the buffering effect is not like limestone. If you're in a limestone terrain, CaCO3, CaCO3 will react quickly and buffer it. So that comment that the pH is higher, is lower because of a chloride, no, that is not hydrogeologically sound. That is not right.
Yes, thank you. That is why you are a hydrological man. Thank you.
No, I may be wrong. I'm not saying I'm the authority.
No. It was when you were talking that I remembered something. So that's why I said thank you very much.
Okay. Do we have an idea about the dosing concentrations we will be using in the pilot studies?
It will depend on the quantity of water that we would need or the students will need at the hostel.
Okay.
Which has also been calculated in another project.
Okay, madam. Okay. Okay, Mr. Barnes, your hand is up. Please, you can. Dr. Barnes.
Sorry, my microphone was, my microphone was off. Please, okay. Which analytical study did you adopt to study the rise or increase in the content of the element?
We just did a batch study. It was done as in once. It was timed, and then we did for 5. All the 5 were done at once, and it was timed the same time. And then we took the samples. This is preliminary studies, so just wanted to check what was really happening there. Okay.
Could you use X-ray fluoroscopy to be able to check the?
You mean for the testing of the metals? Okay. Yes. Sorry. Yes.
For the elemental composition of the water of the groundwater. Yeah. So they're able to know the content of the fluoride or whatever it is increased and is decreased. So if you could use maybe X-ray fluoroscopy, it will give you the elemental components that are over there. So before you do it, and then as you do it, how they are increasing or whether they are decreasing.
Yes, that is true. But where do we get this X-rays whatever? No. Okay. Hold on.
You analyzed it, whatever method you've analyzed it. So just talk about the method to use. Whether
it was a spec, but you see, because it was done at the water company by my students, I didn't take note of whatever equipment that was used. But I know they used the spectrometer.
Yeah, I think right now it's about elemental composition because he's talking about aluminosilicate and he's talking about fluoride.
Yeah.
So to be able to be very sure of the elemental composition and its specific components over there, its quantity over there, X-ray fluoroscopy will give you the specific quantity that you have there and the specific composition that you have there. But spec will just give you concentration, but you will not get the elemental composition.
Oh, okay. I think I get it.
Spec cannot give you elemental composition. You can find. Do
you know where we can get? Do you know where we can get that? Legon.
Yes, Legon.
Okay.
Yes, Earth Science.
But it comes back to funding. Thank you. I will look at it.
Yeah, you have DRIPTT over there, so he will do it for you.
So DRIPTT is there. So DRIPTT, please.
We'll do it for you.
I'm here, so it will be done.
For your ears only.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, Engineer Nanga, please, you can go. Engineer Nanga, please put on the
thank
mic.
You very much.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Doctor, for the nice presentation. My question is very simple. I want to know the two areas of the study, the hostel and the clinic. The sources of the water, are they from the same source or different sources?
It's most likely they are coming from the same source because it's even though one is on the higher ground than the other one, depending on the geological formation, it could be of the same source or different source. But from what I learned from Dr. Proju, it's likely to be the same source from the same aquifer.
Okay, it means it's an underground water.
Let me give a disclaimer. Preliminary geophysical reports show that we have water in different pockets on ATU campus. Yes. Madam, is that true?
If that is true, why I said may or may not be.
Okay. If that is true, they may be coming from different sources. One of the ways to find out is to date the age of the water, to date the water from the different wells using isotopic techniques. If you go to Ghana Atomic Energy, they can do that. So you know the age of the water and know whether they are recent waters or old waters. Yeah. But because of the salinity that we have on ATU campus, it could be old and new water because the place is geologically storing old water. It could be new water, but because we don't have recharge going on, still have high concentration. So it's very difficult to say that until you do further constraining hydrogeological.
Yes, and that may not be in my scope for now.
Of course, yes. So please, any more question? Where are the civil engineers? Leticia. Oh, Engineer Diche. Where is Engineer Diche? He's a groundwater person. He can have some. Oh, Mr. Fola, please, you can go.
Once you are a hydrogeologist, don't you think it will be very appropriate to team up with Mrs. Duncan to actually take up this project? Because very nice input and all that. So
no,
we are all members of the same department.
No, it's not that I am there, but I have always said that Accra ATU campus is not hydrogeologically significant when it comes to water supply for me as a hydrogeologist. So I feel it's not. But if a need is we are in the same research unit. So if we need some help on clarification, I can. Where the water has come from, fine. But I don't think for me hydrogeological significance is not hydrogeological for me. That is I think I've made this point on several platforms. Yes, it's not hydrogeologically significant for me.
And to add to that, I think that somehow I understand him from his point. And from our point, we are looking at whatever source we have and how best we can make it potable for people to drink.
Yeah, that is fair. That's fair. Mr. Ananga, your hand is up again.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. You know, I'm not a hydrologist and I'm not in that area, but I understand very well that from the international organization, the EPA, they made us understand that, in fact, underground waters, unless naturally contaminated, are always the best. So I'm wondering whether this itching is coming from the water or is from the storage or the lines.
Dr. Duncan, will you take it?
You take it, since you explain best the ground.
Engineer Nanga, I mean, the chemistry is showing. The chemistry is clear that this is not. If you look at the Ghana water standards compared to what the chemistry of the water coming from the ground, you can see that chlorides are high, conductivity is high. These are telltale seals that be a little careful. And Madam said they found some bacteriological contaminants also there. So, but the comment that groundwaters are often the best is not true. It's not true. It depends on the geology. You can have grounds that are fractured, and there are fractures that are big like a pipe. When it rains from the surface, it passes, takes contaminant from the surface and gets to the water table. So it is not always true. People just make that assumption. It is not always true that you can have groundwater can always be. You see the way we are having fitting shops around, a lot of landfill sites, a lot of boiler, a lot of dumping sites, a lot of septic tanks. Anyhow, these are all going to contaminate our pristine groundwater. So we are losing. So it depends on the contamination activity, the geology, and the hydrogeological regime. It's not always true. That's why if you have a borehole at home, always test it every 6 months to be sure. If not, you'll be drinking somebody's poo water.
Thank you.
So, Doctor, if you want to add something, you can add it.
Yeah, with the contamination, I think I didn't mention it. It's most likely because the top is not really covered well with especially the old hostel water too. And then the first one too, it could be coming from the pipeline that has been laid underground that we fetch from, and there could be some contamination there. That is why we are having that pathological contamination from the surface into the ground, because we don't have any borehole, any KVIPs or something around here that could contaminate it directly into the groundwater. So it's most likely coming from the surface.
What about the casing of the borehole? What about if the borehole is not well cased? And
yes,
water seeps
that's
around
what I was talking. I mean, the surface is not cased. It's walled, but it is not truly covered. The casing might also be broken or something. And we've asked the plumber to look at it, but they've not done it.
For the casing, you need a borehole CCTV to go down there and give you responses.
Yeah. For the one we are working on, it's not a problem. Most likely it's coming from the pipe that is connected to the pump to where we collect the water. That is where it's coming from.
Engineer Nanga, is it okay? So please, any more comments so that we can...
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. On our schedule, we have, I think after this, the Dean is to give us a closing remark, and then we can close and go home. So, Prof.
All right. I think it's a good job done. At least we have witnessed some presentations today, and that is to strengthen and sharpen our skills, as I earlier said. I believe when we continue sharing or creating this platform for ourselves, and then doing presentations often, we would be able to at least correct our works so that when a bigger platform is presented, or we are opportune with a bigger platform, we can exhibit it, and then people will come to see that, yes, we started something good here. I want to thank the Directorate of Research, Innovation and Technology Transfer for coordinating everything in this regard. And then our able moderator also. I think it is a job that people have. I don't know how it was all planned, but at least there is effort that has gone into it and making sure that everything works out well. I must say that the bits and pieces of things that we've learned today, we should go out there and then see whether we can apply to our research. And then I'm sure in the nick of time, we'll be getting and hitting at the high and top class journals. Let us try. Let us not waver, because the little things that we ignore today in terms of research will be things that will help us actually to get to the heights that we want to get in the not too distant future. Let us, our research teams that we have built together, let us make it active. And then I know department-wise, you are trying to put up something in terms of research. I want you people to continue in that state. And then when we are done with the departmental lessons, then we would have enough research to present on the faculty level. And I'm sure in few weeks or months to come, we'll do or we'll hold another faculty seminar or conference to show and exhibit the various present, exhibit, and show what we have, and then to forge ahead as the faculty. So thank you very much for the opportunity. And then let us go there and then do what we have learned, apply it to our research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Dr. J, can you pray for us so we close?
Hello.
Hello, Dr. J.
Okay, all right. Shall we pray? Father, Lord, we thank you for how far you brought us. We give you all the glory and all the adoration. We thank you for the life of the presenters, for imparting unto us the knowledge. It's our prayer that you yourself be our helper, you guide us to be able to actualize exactly what we've learned, so that we'll be able to move from grace unto grace, so that we'll increase and together grow the institution in the mighty name of our Lord Jesus. We continue to pray that even as we go into our various homes, into our various work, you'll be with us and guide us until we meet once again. We give you all the glory and adoration. Jesus' mighty name, pray thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.